Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Gray Area, episode 27 of the live show. And just a reminder, my co host, Tim Tompkins, he's in Germany doing some business. So I'll be holding down the fort and kind of had to rush around. I kind of had to walk my dog. I kind of had to do a few things because my roommate, he's also gone. He's in Guadalajara, Mexico. He's trying to do like immersion and learn Spanish. So it's really just me holding down the fort alone tonight. And I really look forward to tonight's show because everyone's talking about it. I've seen a couple of clips, but I've been savoring it. I've been saving it for myself to enjoy live on stream. The Piers Morgan x Nick Fuentes debate, discussion, talk show, whatever you want to call it. They did a full 2 hour, which, Nick does a very long stream. He usually does like a 2 hour, 2.5 hour stream, kind of like we do at night, even though it's really like 5 or 6 hours with all the intro music and stuff that he plays before he goes live. But it's always interesting for me to see when people appear in a long format on someone else's broadcast. Because, like, take me, for example, right? Like, I'm sitting here in my home, I'm comfortable, I'm at my home studio, I have everything arrayed exactly how I want it. And like, this is my ideal setup, right? Like, for me to pontificate, for me to rant, no one's going to stop me from doing it. But when you're on someone else's show, especially someone that's not entirely favorable to you, you got to deal with a lot more. And, from what I've seen so far, I think Fuentes did a pretty good job. However, Piers Morgan is a master of the game. He's been doing this for decades and decades and decades. And from some of the things I saw, he got up to his usual tricks. Now, something that I noticed from day one, and really, like, when I heard this came out, I was actually up at the InfoWars office, and I was sitting with Rob Dew. I was actually sitting with Alex. I was sitting with my dad as well. And we were watching the interview, and Dew had it in Premiere because he was editing it up and making a highlight reel and whatnot for Alex to react to. And I go, "Hey, isn't Fuentes's camera usually a lot better than that? Why does it look so shitty? Why is he so low resolution?" And I was like, "Oh, well, of course he's low resolution. They want to make him look as bad as possible." And like, this is a classic mainstream media trick. They did this during COVID with Rogan, right? They took Rogan and they made him look kind of like green. They literally put like a Shrek filter over him or something like that. And when you're on another person's broadcast, or when they're just talking about you and they're against you, they're always going to make you appear in the worst light. And an InfoWars classic, we do this as well. Like, we're guilty of this as well. I'm guilty of it. I think it's fun. Is a classic still image zoom in on a person. It's maybe not the best photo of them, and you go, "Look at this person. Would you let this person babysit your children?" And anyone that's a frequent InfoWars watcher or viewer or listener knows exactly what I'm talking about. That's about 10% of the show. That's about as common as like a gut level or like a second, third, fourth order thinking rant from Alex, right? But Piers Morgan, getting back into what I was talking about, he's been doing this for decades, and he's extremely skilled at what he does, which is appearing to remain neutral and appearing to remain kind of like the moderate arbiter of truth, when he, in fact, is very opinionated, very, very neocon, neolib, very, very much establishment. And he's not a neutral actor. He's a hostile actor in all of this, right? But makes Piers Morgan unique out of everyone else kind of on the establishment side. And I definitely put him there, no matter how much anti-woke signaling he tries to do or tries to talk about. He is the king of woke. He is the king of the libs. He is the king of gun control, for one key example, right? And that's what my dad roasted him alive over nearly, actually, damn, it's crazy, over a decade ago, right? 2012, I believe that was. Isn't that crazy how time flies? But sitting here now, Piers Morgan has had an immense resurgence in his popularity since starting doing his show, Piers Morgan Uncensored. And why is that? Well, he is a great grifter. And what he's able to do with his connections and with his media platform is get like the most controversial, the biggest names, the best people really, and put them on like a 4 or 2-way panel. And he's able to kind of moderate and arbitrate between them. Right. So he has had intensive training, both practical and I'm sure from his handlers behind the scenes, of how to deal with controversial figures and how to make them look bad and how to kind of paint a narrative. Now, Nick Fuentes, on the other hand, is someone who, since the age of 18, has been doing his own political broadcast, his own political show multiple nights a week, if not every night a week, for 2, 3, sometimes even 4 hours. And he's trained in that way, right? No one is a more generational talent. No one is a better student of the game. No one is a better talker than Nick Fuentes. And people will hear me say that and go, "Oh, you're just a shit. You're like a shill or a simp for Fuentes," right? And like, here's my thing. And I want to get into this before we fully get into the broadcast, right? And before we fully get into the reaction, which is coming, just give me like 5 or 10 minutes to go over this. Here's my thinking when it comes to all of that. How do I put this? How do I phrase it? Fuentes is someone that is classically trained in the sense of he's done the studying, he's done the homework, and he has the talent. And there's no one else in our generation that can really measure up to that standard, right? However, he doesn't really have a traditional media background. And what does this present? This presents an opportunity for people, at least they think it presents an opportunity for people like Piers to come in and kind of big bro him, to kind of smack him around on his platform now that he's not on his platform, right? Now, I don't think that's exactly what went down after watching, the few clips that I've seen. I think Nick did a pretty good job, but Piers did he did a little jujitsu on him a couple of times. And, what I was trying to get into, the point I'm trying to make here is I come at this from a pretty unique perspective. I've been actively politically involved, politically aware, for good or bad, for bias or no bias, and my opinions have changed over the years. I've been involved in the political space for well over a decade, right? Just as a fan, as a listener, as a viewer, especially of like alternative and new media, right? So I come at it from the perspective of I'm fans of a lot of different people. I'm a fan of Nick Fuentes. I'm a fan of Due Dissidence. I'm a fan of my father. I'm a fan of others that do great shows because I'm a fan of the art style and the medium, right? Like I myself, even though I'm not as talented as Fuentes, I'm a student of the game myself. And I consume just oceans and oceans and oceans of this media, or as it's now called, content. And I come at it from a perspective of, even if I don't agree with everything a person says, if they're a talented broadcaster, I'm just interested to tune in to see what they have to say and how they say it, because not everyone can talk like that, right? And no one is able to do a better 2-hour rant than Nick Fuentes. However, when he's on someone else's show, that's not the style that he is able to employ. And I heard someone else say this in the comment section and got a lot of likes. They have different styles. And as we say in MMA, styles make fights. And the thing with Piers that you have to come at from day one or just from minute one, if you're going on a broadcast with him, is he is a dishonest actor. He is someone that positions himself to be neutral, positions himself to be a moderate, positions himself to be anti-woke, when in fact he is all of those things wrapped into one, right? And from what I've seen, Fuentes' goal, his approach when getting into this broadcast was to come at it from kind of, you know, I don't want to say peaceful, but a very measured and composed approach to show that he's not he's not a reactionary, he's not overly emotional, he's not there to fight. He's there to give the ideas. And I think it's important to give the ideas. And I like seeing that. And I like seeing that on Tucker, right? But, sitting here in the chair as someone that's had experience with this and as someone who can tell you this, it's very hard to be combative with someone on their show. And like, even if you can't stand them, it's very hard. It takes a lot of testicular fortitude, right? And that's something my dad has a lot of. That's something my dad's showcased a lot of over the years, going on broadcasts like this, going on broadcasts like The View. And I think you got to be a little more aggressive. Now, that being said, I haven't seen it, and I've been saving it for this live stream so that we could live react to it. Really quick, I'm going to read some of your comments, see what you have to say, and we're going to get into that live reaction of Nick Fuentes versus Piers Morgan. And this is the biggest thing on the internet right now. I expect it'll be the biggest thing on the internet for another week because, we don't see a lot of this. We don't see a lot of boomer zoomer interaction. And I don't know how old Piers Morgan is. He might as well be a boomer, ladies and gentlemen, right? But the British accent game doesn't work anymore. People have kind of figured that out in kind of the American parlance, because we have a stripped down utilitarian version of the King's English or whatever you want to call it. We see British people with kind of that foppish, pompous accent as somehow 10 to 20 IQ points higher than they actually are. And this is confirmed in the studies, right? And, Nick doesn't buy into that. Alex doesn't buy into that. I don't buy into that. But to the vast viewing public, that is the perception. And to counter that, you have to hammer him and you have to make him explode, because he will explode if you push him. And Alex made him explode. So I'm going to see what y'all have to say. We're going to get into the reaction. This is going to be very fun. And after we get into the reaction, we're going to do a call-in show. I want to hear what y'all have to say on this. I want to hear what y'all have to think about this and on other topics too, honestly. And I put this in the comment section before I went live, or while I went live at the very beginning. I have NATO and the EU on my mind. And I have a lot of things I want to discuss and a lot of clips I want to show and a lot of things I want to say. But I know y'all are here for Fuentes Morgan. I am too. I've been putting it off. I need to watch it. So let's get into that now, but I want to see what you guys have to say. Shout out Honey Badger. Shout out International Gold. Shout out Ashley Rose Gold. Shout out New Groiper. New Groiper, please call in when I give out the number. I'm very excited to talk to New Groiper tonight. I'm sure he's got a lot of opinions on the Fuentes presentation. Let's go ahead and watch this video.
A New York Times reader, an NPR fan, a Daily Wire subscriber, or an avid consumer of all things Tucker Carlson. For several months now, there's been no avoiding the subject of Nick Fuentes. And let's be clear, the main reason you're hearing about him is because he's popular. A large number of people, especially young men, are interested in what he has to say.
I promise I won't pause this much, but yeah, no shit, retard. You're telling us everything we already know.
What that says about our society and our culture is the subject of ferocious debate. For many people, it's a grave indictment of an insidious immorality. For others,
an insidious immorality.
He's a product of a culture which has turned on its own and left many young people feeling listless and bitter. He's either a litmus test for right-wing hypocrisy on free speech or a walking, talking manifestation of where the line should be drawn. And a frankly preposterous amount of airtime has been spent on debating everything from his ideology to his sexuality and whether anyone should actually talk to him at all.
If I were writing a glossary entry...
Okay. And I promise I won't pause this much. Before I even saw clips of this thing, I saw this random dude, this random Barry Weiss creation guy who gets no views, who gets no likes, who gets no comments, until magically he's pushed into everyone's algorithm. And this guy, although he doesn't have the British accent, he doesn't have the foppish presentation that Piers has, they're literally the exact same person. And you'll notice this with criticisms of Fuentes, they are all the same. They're all the same.
On the Streisand effect, I wouldn't put a picture of her next to it. I would put a picture of Nick Fuentes.
Stealing my dad's line there.
Not do so when it comes to Nazis like Nick Fuentes.
Fuentes takes this guy apart brick by brick. It's a full takedown.
My concern is that people who are a bit more moderate are deeply alarmed by Nick Fuentes.
I was very happy to see that Nick Fuentes really passed that test with flying colors.
That fragmentation is being caused purposefully by a splinter faction of people led by a young man named Nick Fuentes.
That's the war. Can you get the beef prices down? Not crazy things
Bill O'Reilly's
that
on
Nick Fuentes
Ozempic.
or these other loons say on social media.
Well, it looks like all the screaming about Nick Fuentes on the internet.
Okay, we don't need to see this.
I know nothing about Nick Fuentes. I want this to be an opportunity to get to the real person. I don't know who that person is, but I do want to use this opportunity to get there. I've seen you talk as we prepared for this in exchanges with people and on your show, saying you fear it's going to be very hostile, it's going to be an ambush, all those kind of things.
Of course it is. You're a fucking liar, Piers.
Intend it to be overtly hostile. I don't intend to ambush you. I intend it to be an examination of what you said on the record, an examination of what...
I'm going to play clips of you out of context, and I'm going to call you a bad person, and I'm going to make you look bad to the viewing public.
You believe, or what you say you believe, and an examination of what your rising popularity says about the state of the conservative movement in America. So those are my goals from this interview. What are your goals? Why are you doing it?
I thought it'd be interesting. And, you've talked a lot about me on your show over the years, and this is the first time you actually extended the invitation. I think it might be the second, actually. I think we talked about doing it during A24 a few years ago, but you've talked a lot about me with the panel, and now you've extended the invitation to talk to me. And I think it'd be interesting for me to maybe clarify some positions and maybe get to know you a little better as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
There is a belief that you have two personas. There's one that you roll out now for podcasts and for shows like mine, where you come across as reasonable. And then there's your show on Rumble, where you often come across as having, a very unreasonable view on things. This is what Coleman Hughes said about you.
Nick Fuentes.
All right, who? This is what who said about you? All right, look, not to toot my own horn, I'm definitely like an F-list, like, I guess, e-commentator, or I'm not going to use the term influencer, media figure. I'm definitely F-list or D-list, but who the hell is this guy? No one knows who this guy is. And I can't anymore. I can't anymore because they come after Fuentes. They say all these things about him, but ultimately he's organic. These people are GMO crops.
Fuentes knows exactly what he's doing. He is consciously playing this double game as part of a long-term strategy to become popular enough to take the reins of power, at which point he plans to pivot towards the extreme and unpopular policies that he advocates daily.
This guy needs to lift
Rumble.
some weights.
So first of all, what is your response to that?
Well, first of all, I would say that Coleman Hughes is a propagandist. He works for the Free Press,
Base.
which is run by Barry Weiss. So I
Based.
think you have to consider the source. And Barry Weiss is a pro-Israel partisan. Free Press is just bought out by CBS for $150 million by Larry Ellison or his son, David Ellison. And so I think that's coming from a particular point of view. We can't pretend like that's coming from a vacuum or from some fixed position. That's coming from a propaganda outlet that's in favor of Israel.
That's right.
First. But second, I would say he is right about the two personas. And I think that everybody understands this on some level. On my show, I make jokes and I use rhetoric and I'm hyperbolic because for a long time, I had an audience that was small on these like dissident platforms. I was on D Live for many years. A lot of people don't even know what that is. And so I had a small following and we had sort of like an in-group sense of humor.
Most censored
and
man
memes and
in
things
history,
like that.
even surpassing
And you
my
talk about
father.
it one way on a freewheeling live stream when I'm by myself and I'm ranting and we make jokes and we play devil's advocate. We play with different positions. But then when you sit down in an interview like this one and people ask me a good faith question, what do you actually believe? Well, then I clarify and I say, well, here I'm not joking. Here I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not being rhetorical.
That's how
I'll
it
tell
works.
you precisely what I believe. As far as this idea that
Notice how I said that before we even started playing the interview. Like, of course, that's how it works, Piers.
and I'm going to get power and then turn into Hitler, that just sounds totally insane to me. I'll be honest. It just sounds insane.
Do you have aspirations for political power?
Not really. I think that if I wanted to run for office, I wouldn't say a lot of the things that I say. I don't know that a lot of people would vote for me.
True.
I tend to offend everybody, even a lot of people that like me. So no, I'm a truth teller. I like to tell the truth. I like to do my live stream.
Who is Nick Fuentes? Tell me about your upbringing. I know you grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. Tell me about your early years.
Or early how? Like my childhood or a little bit
your
later?
childhood, yeah.
Well, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago in LaGrange Park, as you say. My parents are ethnics. My father's half Mexican, half Irish. My mother's Italian. And they both came from a pretty rough upbringing themselves. They both were raised by single mothers, not because of divorce, but because both of their fathers had died. They endured a lot of dysfunction. And I think that's one of the reasons they came together and they related to each other and they wanted to create a normal upbringing for their children. They wanted to have a normal family life. And so they moved out to LaGrange Park away from the city. And they raised me and my sister and really put us first. I think that's a big reason why I tend to have a lot of these family values or Christian values. My mother quit her job and stayed at home to raise us. And so I have a very close relationship with my parents, with my sister. We're a very tight family. And we grew up in a pretty idyllic town. And maybe we can sort of get into a conversation about politics from this. I loved my upbringing. My mom stayed at home. My dad was working. We're in a mostly white suburb in Chicago. I was maybe half Catholic, half Protestant. It was a baseball town. I played baseball for many years. In Chicago, we love our hot dogs. We have our baseball parade and get a hot dog. And so I love where I came from. I love the city. It's a working class city. I love the people here. They're very good, humble, down to earth, decent people. And I guess I had my political, not to jump ahead, but this is a big part of where my political awakening came from. I sort of left this bubble, if you could call it that. When I went to college in 2016, I went to Boston University. And I read a lot of things online, and I realized the country does not look like LaGrange Park. It doesn't look like Western Springs or Hinsdale or Elmhurst. It looks very different. The country's undergoing a radical transformation because of immigration. And so I saw that and I said, this is not really a desirable change. I don't like the south side of Chicago or the west side or LA or certain parts of Boston as much as I like where I came from. And I guess that's what made me an American nationalist. I said, I want to preserve my home and the things that are familiar to me and the things I like about my home.
See, Piers wouldn't know anything about that. And not to pause too much, I know the first thing they always do to disarm you is to make you talk about your background to kind of lull you into a false sense of security. And they start hammering you with questions. I've seen them do this to Fuentes before. Hell, even Tucker did it to him, right? But not to pontificate on that too much. Like, Piers is someone who said that he doesn't care if the UK is majority non-white. He doesn't care if the place his ancestors have been from for thousands of years is no longer their ancestral home. Hey, as long as he gets a bowl of curry, it's all right.
Makes it America. So that's a little bit about my background. I don't know where you want to go with that, but
that's kind of where
my first
question is, were your parents immigrants to the United States, or were their parents, or were they grandparents? In other words, at some stage, I presume there were immigrants in your family who came to the US. Is that correct?
There were. I believe my mother was fourth generation and my father was third generation. So their ancestors came here on my mom's side in the 1860s, I believe, the first wave of Italian immigration. My father's ancestors, I think they came around at the turn of the century in 1900.
So your view of immigration, and we'll get to the specifics about your views on immigration, are they not affected at all by the fact that if it wasn't for immigration, you wouldn't exist as an American?
Well, I would certainly exist, but like you said, maybe not as an American. Certainly that's influenced in some measure. But I think that the kind of immigration that we had for a long time in the country, it's different than the immigration that we have now.
Right.
And let's just say for openers, it's different immigrants. They're coming from a different place with a different culture, a different religion. It's not the same as it was. So first, you have a qualitative difference. My ancestors, for the most part, I have 3 European grandparents from Ireland and Italy, 1 from Mexico. They came from Europe. They came from a society where there's a common ancestry, there's a common religion, common civilization. The people that have come in since 65, since Hart-Celler, they're coming from China, India, the Northern Triangle, Mexico, Venezuela. And so first, they're just different people. Secondly, it's a quantitative difference. There's way more, and it's an unceasing, always increasing wave. For the first 3 or 4 waves of immigration, you would have a major influx of immigrants and then it would stop. And then you'd have another wave and then it would stop. This one, it just keeps going up for 35 years and it's too many. So that's really where I would draw the distinction between maybe where I originate from. I would even just simply call that immigration. What this is an invasion. It's a completely different policy.
But you mentioned, you mentioned Mexico in that list, and your father is half Mexican. So,
yeah,
I mean, by your criteria, part of the invasion would include your father, presumably.
All right, this is so stupid on its face, right? So he's talking about someone, a grandparent, a great-grandparent who came here versus the 10, 20, probably more than 20 million people that came here in the last 4 or 5 years alone. And Piers wants to draw a false equivalency between the two, and it simply doesn't exist. And that's when you got to realize he's a hostile actor. This is not someone trying to have a constructive conversation. He's not even trying to hear Nick's viewpoints, even if he disagrees with them. He's setting everything up from the attack. So just wait for it.
And his immediate descendants who came from Mexico.
Not really true, because when my father's ancestors came here, it was a small fraction of the total immigrants that came from Mexico. I don't believe that we should have zero immigrants forever, or even zero immigrants from non-white countries. But you have to draw the distinction. My father's father, he was here in the 40s and 50s. It was his parents, or I believe either his parents or grandparents, that came here even earlier. Up until 1965, 90% of the immigrants were coming from Europe. I have no problem with that. If we have 10% of them coming from Mexico or Latin America, maybe that's reasonable, but that's not what it is now. Now you've got 10 million illegals in 4 years under Joe Biden.
Right.
And you got millions more legal immigrants from China, India, Venezuela, El Salvador. And it's so many with no break for assimilation. And they're all from non-white countries. It's transforming what America is. And again, that's the distinction. That's what makes it unacceptable.
I always believe everybody is a product of their environment. Right? I've interviewed thousands of people. Maybe 3, 4, 5,000 people from all different walks of life. But the one common theme I would say is everyone's a product of their environment. And I was reading some stuff about you in the last few days. There was an episode of your podcast where you talked about your father, Bill Fuentes, and how he wouldn't take the family, including you, to certain restaurants because he believed they were associated with African Americans. We would be deciding where to go to eat, you said. What are we going to do for dinner tonight? It was a running joke. Me and my sister would say Applebee's, and my dad would say we would never eat at Applebee's. Not in a million years should you be caught dead, Fuentes said about Applebee's. Go to a different restaurant, a local restaurant. No Applebee's, no Red Lobster. That is commonly known as black fare. And you also shared another story about your family and restaurants. It said, before me and my sister were born, my family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word that we're not allowed to say. So my question, based on that anecdote that you say on your own podcast, is do you think you grew up in a racist environment, that your father was inherently racist, and that thought process?
So notice, and Piers is so good at doing this because, like I said, he's had the decades and decades of experience of just how to needle and just how to do it just right and just how to do it properly, so that he says highly offensive, inflammatory things and attacks people's families and attacks them themselves, but is then able to just be seen as, I'm just posing a question. I'm just posing a question to you, Mr. Fuentes. Well, is your father a racist piece of shit?
Move to you.
Well, I would say it's a new low. I've been attacked for being a racist many times, but to attack my father, to attack my parents based on anecdotes, I would say that's sort of a new low.
Hang on, it's your anecdote.
Yeah, but he's not here to defend himself.
You are.
And my parents are.
You told us.
Yes, you must defend your father after I have attacked him. See, he just admitted that he's attacked his father. And this is the dishonesty of Piers Morgan. This is why I can't stand the guy.
And I will, and I'll
I'm not trying to ambush you. As I
said
at the start, Nick, to be clear.
No, it's not an ambush.
I'm literally reading an anecdote.
You're a fucking liar,
you
Piers.
revealed on your podcast. It's you that's put it in the public domain.
I know.
I'm simply asking you whether my assessment of that, which is that your father didn't want to take you to certain restaurants because of what you refer to as, they were commonly known as black fare, whether that attitude to African Americans in that instance permeated to you. It's a reasonable question.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think everybody knows what that is, but I'll address it. I'll engage with it, and I'll defend my father from the charge of racism.
Sure.
No, my parents are not racist, and they've never been racist. I'll tell you about my parents. They used to have a school in Chicago in the South Loop where they instructed people on how to shoot firearms. It was a security school, and most of the clients were black. And I believe actually one of their clients was Larry Hoover.
Oh, arming black people, training black people, responsible black people, how to use guns. See, this is a whole world of difference here. Piers and Nick, they live in different worlds. For as fallen as America is, and this is something I want to get in with the callers later on the show. For as fallen as we are, for as broken as we are, for as many rights that we've lost, we do still have an element of true freedom here. And Piers is essentially a state globalist mouthpiece for the British establishment, and he can't even fathom a world where people are armed. It's completely out of his mind. So Fuentes making an anecdote or Fuentes making a joke or Fuentes saying his dad said something about not going to a certain restaurant or whatnot. I mean, compared to giving people guns and training them how to use them.
Hoover's son at one point, sort of a funny story. And so most of their clients would come in from the south side of Chicago. My grandmother, she grew up in the projects in the city. And so my family being in Chicago, being ethnics, being Italian, Irish, Mexican, and the West Side on Taylor Street, all over the city. My family for many generations have lived near and around Black people. And look, my views about Black people and their views about Black people are shaped with experiences with Black people. And what they will tell you, what my parents would say if they were here, is that for many, many years, the older generations of Black people were very respectful, very humble, very decent. In fact, my grandma used to have an anecdote. She grew up in a lot of dysfunction. Her mother was mentally ill, and they would be having dinner in the projects, and there'd be so much chaos and dysfunction and disagreement and fighting. And she would look across the way out the window at a Black family in the other apartment, and they'd be holding hands around the table saying grace. And this is sort of the culture that used to prevail. But now what you have in the city is that there's no accountability for the Black people. And now Chicago has become a complete dump because these teenagers go out and they take over the city. They call them teen takeovers. That's the euphemism for it. They're teenagers, but they all come from the same neighborhood. They drive up there and they mug people and attack people and they destroy cars and destroy shops. We had the Festival of Lights a couple of weeks ago. It's supposed to be a family event. And they light up the trees and they, there's a big parade. I was in the parade one year and you had a bunch of Black people there shooting each other. 7 people shot, a 14-year-old killed in the Magnificent Mile. And I know there's a lot of Black people that feel the same way about this. They say, we've lost control of the city and we're looking for accountability. We have a lot of Black people that are always outraged about racism, outraged about attitudes from white people, but they're never ashamed of some of these behaviors, never ashamed of some of the things that go on. And that's why I think there's a lot of negative attitudes these days. And so, again, I think those attitudes, you say I'm a product of my environment. I am. And so are my parents and my grandparents. Unlike you, because you're not even American, in Chicago, we have to live in a big, diverse city where there's a lot of different kinds of people. And I think anybody in Chicago will tell you this.
I live in a big, diverse city. London's been taken over, and I love it. I get to eat my curry, and I witness knife attacks every day. And I know exactly the type of environment you're referring to, and I love it. There's nothing wrong with it at all.
I live in London. It's one of the biggest and most diverse cities in the world.
But it's not the same.
Well, actually, it's a big, diverse city. The only difference is we don't have the gun violence because we don't have guns.
I hope he gets into this more later in the future. I can rattle off the gun statistics for the United States of America. Like the back of my hand, I've known him since 2012. Piers will try to represent Britain as some sort of utopia where because they don't have much gun crime or gun violence or gun deaths because they have no guns, there's some sort of morally superior culture. When I would argue, as I saw the clip in Nick talking about Aladdin, I'm sure he'll get into it. I would argue people getting acid attacked, people getting raped, they can't defend themselves, people getting knifed and stabbed and robbed at like Sabre Point. I would argue that's far worse.
Whole different story. I don't want to get into that with you. I have got into that before in America.
You got a knife problem.
Oh, he has gotten into it before in America, and my dad kicked his ass. If you've never seen the Alex Jones, Piers Morgan interview, it's another 2-hour piece. That's one I watched yesterday just to relive the glory days of, it's kind of like the Third British War, right? We beat him in 1776. We beat him in 1812. And then in 2012, my dad beat him again in his own studio.
He got sword problems.
We have problems with
Aladdin.
We have problems with violent crime. I make no pretense of it. So the idea that somehow I'm cosseted in London because I'm not in Chicago.
I didn't say that.
Well, you kind of implied it. But I guess my point about the environment, I'm not saying you are a product of your environment. I'm saying most people are in some capacity. When I read that anecdote, it's just to remind you, it's not something I have put out there. You told this story, right? And you said that
you said this. We're looping. You said this already.
But you haven't really directly, I think, responded to it, which is whether your father would not take you to certain restaurant chains because he associated them with Black Americans. Is that true?
No, well, see here, if you're in America, you would say that Olive Garden is not real Italian food. Applebee's, TGI Fridays, this stuff is a load of crap. My dad was just a food snob, but no, it's got nothing to do with that. My best friend in first grade was a black guy. We're not a racist family. So
okay, so when you told
no.
the story, I'm just curious. So when you told that anecdote, which clearly on the face of it is racist, right? You're basically saying your father made racist decisions about where you would go as a family to eat. Are you saying, well, I'm just going to ask you a question. Are you saying that when you told that story, you didn't mean to infer that he was racist? And do you understand why when somebody like me reads that anecdote for the first time, as I did this week, I reach a different conclusion?
Well, I understand what you're doing, which is a sort of making of a murderer. How did he become racist? Well, his father didn't eat an Olive Garden because he said that's not real Italian food. Hang on, can I? What's with the interruptions? Can I explain?
I'm literally reminding you of something you said on your show, which led me to conclude a certain thing. If I'm wrong, tell me.
Yeah, it was said in jest as a humorous anecdote, and now you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is his parents are racist. He comes from a long line of racists. And I think everybody knows my parents are boomers. Mm-hmm. And these people well, you're a boomer, I guess, too, in a way, 60. Right? You were born in
60.
19? Yeah. So you're a boomer also. Or maybe you're a Gen Xer. I suppose it's sort of on the cusp. But it's a humorous anecdote. These are kind of the attitudes of baby boomers in society. But you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is you're a product of your environment. Your dad's racist because of this joke. Now you're a racist. And I don't think that's a fair characterization.
Okay. People can make their own minds up. They can go back and listen to you say it. I mean, the beauty of what I'm going to talk to you about in this interview is that almost all of it is just going to be reminding you what you have said and asking you what you meant. Your position about that story is that it was a joke. Okay. I want to come to something else you said. This is where you talk about Jews, women, and blacks. Let's just take a listen.
They're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
Clearly a joke.
Okay. Would you like to clarify what you meant there?
That's all true. That's 100% true. Everything I said in that clip is true.
Including that blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
Yeah. Yes.
But all of them?
No, for the most part.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of American blacks would you like to see in prison?
Whatever the percentages of the murderers. I think it's 1 in 20 black men will commit a murder in their lifetime. So maybe let's say that 5%.
Oh, so you're talking about black people who murder people?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But you didn't say that. You just said blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. You didn't clarify that you were talking about black murderers.
Right. No, you're right. That's a good addition to that. That's a great point.
Do you think it's funny or?
I think it's pretty funny.
I do. I think it's hilarious. I think it's totally true.
Do you think a black American would find it funny? You think that blacks should be imprisoned for the most part?
Blacks are my biggest fans. I get high fives all the time. They say, Nick Fuentes, I love your show. They agree with me. And you want to know why? Here's the difference. Black people are the most victimized by other black people. You think black people want to live in the hood and the ghetto and get shot all the time? That's what happens in the south side of Chicago.
When you make
should
money,
come here.
leave.
I'll take you there. We could go to Garfield Park.
My son went to Chicago University for a year, actually, several years ago.
Yeah, that's a bubble. That's a bubble. You think you're in Chicago and Hyde Park? You don't know Chicago. Go a little bit west, see what it's like over there. And I'll tell you, black people agree with me because they're tired of it too. And maybe not most of them, but a lot of them agree with what I say about that because they know how it is. That's why the first thing they do when they make a little bit of money is they go and leave to another neighborhood.
Okay, so what was just remind me again, the percentage of black men who commit murder in America. What was the percentage you gave me?
It's 1 in 20. 1 in 20.
It's 1 in 100.
No, it's 1 in 20.
No. Less than 1 in 100 black US men commit murder. That's the most up-to-date crime statistics in America.
That's not true. I've seen other statistics. They say 1 in 20 will eventually commit a murder.
So your rate means that you're saying that 5 times as many black men commit murder as the official crime statistics say?
Yeah, there's a report, I believe, on X by Data Hazard. I'll have to go and double check that for you. But yes, there's some pretty shocking evidence that says that it's far more alarming than you would think.
Okay, but you would accept that the official crime statistics are 1 in 100, or you wouldn't accept that statistic?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me,
Well,
but
just
I've
saying
seen
it,
other
Piers.
evidence. Like I said, Data Hazard on X, I believe, produced a report about a year ago. It said 1 in 20. But I mean, whether it's 1 in 20 or 1 in 100, that's a lot of people, Piers. I mean,
Sure,
this is
a lot of white
problem.
people commit murder too. Well, they do, don't they?
Okay, but it's about proportionality. I mean, white people are 65% of the population. Blacks are 13%.
Mm-hmm.
And I think anybody would tell you that more black people proportionally commit violent crime than white people. And people vote with their feet. People would rather pay a much higher property tax.
Most mass
what's with the
shootings-
interruptions?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, you look at in Chicago, in New York, these neighborhoods are so stratified. People would rather pay a high
Look at the
tax
hatred
rate. They'd rather pay a
on
much higher.
Morgan's face. Look at that hatred. Look at that resting bitch face. I mean, I guess this is what happens when your wife takes a 6-week break from the marriage to go get railed in Ibiza or something, which is apparently what goes on in the Morgan household. Not really going to comment on that too much, you know, to each his own. I'm not going to criticize Piers too much for that. But notice how angry Piers Morgan is, and notice how skilled he is at disguising his anger and trying to come off as some sort of rational moral actor. He wants to attack Fuentes. He wants to rip him apart, and he's doing his best to do so. And you know what? I hadn't seen the full thing before, and I still haven't seen the full thing. We're going through it right now. But with this tone of passive aggressiveness, I do think the best approach is from Fuentes saying, what's with the interruptions? Why won't you let me talk? Why won't you let me speak? Because Piers Morgan is building a narrative brick by brick by brick. He started off talking about Nick Fuentes' father, posing Nick Fuentes' origin from the home, from the cradle as being racist. And now he's getting into Fuentes hating black people and wanting them all in jail. You know, Fuentes said he said that seriously, but then kind of goes on to clarify that it's a joke and he wants the murderers to be in prison. Obviously, no one wants large portion or majority of black people to be locked up. I don't like that. I'm not a racist. I don't agree with that. But it is a shocking crime statistic that about 5% of that demographic literally commits nearly all the crime in the country. And that's just a fact on its face. And what Fuentes is talking about is, before he was interrupted, is, hey, people will pay much higher property tax in order to not live in these areas, in order to not deal with these people, to deal with the YNs, because it's hell on earth. People, Chicago, if you look up the statistics, I do it every month or so. Every weekend, it's nearly dozens of deaths, if not dozens of deaths.
Property value to live in a less diverse, less black neighborhood because they don't want to live around the violence. And I think that when you look at even on the public transit, the subway.
My wife just got returned from a sexual vacation, a little pause from our marriage, and she told me, Piers, if you ever hope to be allowed in the bedroom again, you must do a good job. You must charboil Nick Fuentes alive. You must do a good job, and you must do it now. You must be a good boy.
The blue line, you know, people don't want to go there because they know who occupies and menaces the public transit. It is these people like Daniel Penny had to deal with. It's people like Irina Zarutska had to deal with. And that's just the uncomfortable reality.
You've also said you don't want to live near black people. Let's take a listen to this clip.
I'm a new generation of white person. I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. You know, I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry. It's racial for me. And
Black people think this way. Mexican people think this way. Asian people are notorious for thinking this way. But notice it's only a problem when white people do it, right? And you know what? I don't even hold this viewpoint, right? Like I date black women. I like them. I'll be honest with you right now. And, you know, Nick Fuentes, a little sweet on Candace Owens. It may be a little hypocritical of him to say this in the clip right here. Look, are we allowed to have our own opinions? Are we allowed to have our own prejudices even? Or do we have to be browbeaten and called racist and called a Nazi and called all these things, these labels which really aren't warranted? And I'm sure Fuentes will get into it later in the broadcast when Piers Morgan calls him a racist, because I've seen the clip. Eventually, if you just get beat over the head for decades and told that you're evil and told that you're racist, eventually you're just going to say, yeah, you are. Now, I would not say that. I'm not a racist person. I don't hold that many prejudices, but everyone holds prejudices. Even Piers does. Now, Piers may hold prejudices against white people, against white British people. I think it's very clear that he does, right? But, this is kind of universal to the human condition. And the only cure for that really is Christianity, realizing that we're all made in the image of God, that everyone deserves human rights and human liberties. And I think it's very interesting. And I'll make this point now. We're going to keep reacting. Piers Morgan is making it out to be that he's some sort of racial white savior, that he's there to make the principled argument against the evil, racist, little mini Hitler in the basement man, and that he's going to do all these things, right? He makes this point, and he's layering it, and he's building it brick by brick by brick. I just lost my point, ladies and gentlemen. This is why I'm not Nick Fuentes. I'm not that good at broadcasting yet. What is my point here? What is my point that I'm trying to make? Let's watch the clip a little bit more. I'll find it.
Call me racist. Oh, very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
Oh, this is my point. So Piers Morgan wants to make it out that he's the arbiter of what's good and what's bad, and he's anti-racist, and that makes him a good person. Piers Morgan covered up the Gaza genocide for years. Piers Morgan continues to do so. He continues to make excuses for it. He continues to rationalize it. He continues to, make it look less bad, at least. He continues to have these people on that are really spewing genocidal propaganda. And Nick Fuentes, for all his faults and all his prejudices and all his racisms, Nick Fuentes is someone that stood up for the people of Palestine, as have I. Free Palestine. That's why I started doing this broadcast. Mainly was the war in Ukraine and the war, the genocide in Gaza. Now, Piers Morgan is someone who has signed on to the killings and bombings and maimings of hundreds of thousands of people trapped in an open-air prison done by Western weapons, funded by the British, funded by Americans, funded by the West. And see, that's totally okay. That's totally fine, because they're a victim group, you see. They're a victim group, and that makes anything that they do fine. And the only group that's not a victim group is white people. So, of course, Piers Morgan, he loves the Jews, he loves the ethnics, he loves everyone in that demographic, he hates his own people, and he loves everyone but his own people so much that he's willing to cover up a literal genocide. And that's what it is. You can look at the footage of it that we've seen for years. It's mass killing, it's mass death, it's the killing of children, it's the clearing of homes, it's the killings of husbands, wives, their entire families. And then the IDF soldiers will put on the lingerie of the women that they've killed. And this is something that Piers Morgan has made excuses for. But you see, Nick Fuentes is the bad person because he makes racial jokes at his home studio. So we're not playing this game. And Fuentes made this point on his broadcast. I watched it yesterday. It's not 2015 anymore. This doesn't work. When the hypocrisy has been shown on so many various levels, you don't get to do it anymore. I'm sorry. Free Palestine, fuck you.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer, really, unless you want to say that's another of your jokes. But you're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being...
You're going to say he's one anyway, Piers, so you might as well say he is. You see how you brought us to this point? You see how you did it? Like, you're responsible.
Honest is racist. I think everybody... The only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment. True. Everybody else is racist.
But earlier in the interview, you got aggrieved at the idea that your father was a racist. You wanted to make emphatic...
my father's...
He's not.
Because my father doesn't share my same views on that.
So he's the exception to the everyone's a racist.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist. You're right. So maybe everybody, the difference is your father, he can get fired from his job.
Liar. You are a fucking liar. Yicking his father.
No, I'm not. I don't know you. And to be clear, no knowledge about him at all.
Well, then let's leave him out of it.
Hang on, Nick. You put that story into the public domain on your show. I'm simply reminding you of what you told everybody, millions of people, about your father. If you now want to retract it, fine. If you want to say it was a joke, which is what your position was earlier, fine. But I'm allowed to put to you things you said publicly. That's not unfair. That's not me targeting your father. You put that story about him out there.
You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
I'm asking you about a pretty shocking anecdote, which to me looked like you were saying your father made decisions about where you as a family would eat based on skin color of people who worked at these places. If you say, or use them, if you say that is not what you meant, that's fine. You can respond any way you like. But the idea I can't ask you about it without you saying I'm attacking your father is ridiculous.
Well, you are, and you know what you're doing. And there's a political culture in America where if you have the wrong views, you get fired from your job. And my father has a job. And if you go on here and say, you charge him with racism or something, and I'm put in a position where I don't look like I'm sticking to my guns if I don't say my father's a racist, you're putting him in jeopardy, and he's not here to defend himself or explain his views. And it's very low, and I think you know exactly what you're doing, and people can see what you're doing. I'll defend my views, and I think that, so let's leave him out of it. Let's just not talk about my father, because my father isn't here. I'm here.
Okay, well, then do you accept that you shouldn't talk? Okay, listen, that's fine. But then do you accept you shouldn't talk about your father on your show? And you shouldn't tell?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So it's fine for you to put a story out there which would make most people who listened to that story or watched it at the time on your show conclude that he was racist. It's fine for you to do that. But if I then ask you about it, I'm the one who's being unfair and I've crossed a line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you're being malicious.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Listen, people are watching this live. They can draw their own conclusions about whether what I just did.
And they will.
Yeah, and I'm sure afterwards, by the way, you'll say, he ambushed me with your own words. With your own words.
That's a little presumptuous. I'm not going to say it's an ambush, but I think that's a low blow. Agreed. And I think you know what you're doing, and that's fine. You're a tabloid journalist. I expected that. I don't think it's an ambush because I knew it would be like this. And people will see what you're doing, and I think they'll say it's low. But as far as you want to talk about racism, I do. Let's talk about racism.
Okay,
let's leave my dad out of it.
Look, you've admitted you're a racist, correct?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Own it.
Okay, that's fine. You're perfectly entitled in a free democratic society to stare down the barrel of his camera and tell me you're a racist. People can judge you accordingly.
Not where you're from, Piers. You see, and this is the main difference. You see, Piers Morgan, he's acting like he's some sort of moral arbiter. Piers Morgan doesn't fight for the rights of his own people. Piers Morgan doesn't talk about the censorship or the arrests in the UK. You know, when you say something like, hey, I don't want to pay for immigrants' health care when they're raping our people, you get sent to jail for 20 months. I've played that clip many times on our show. And you notice how that's not the conversation. Notice how this is a conversation between an American who can actually say what he wants and then a British person who has no rights, but he's a part of the system.
Many people who have assumed that you're racist will now have heard it from your own lips. That's fine.
There you go.
That's the point. The point of this interview is to go over the things you've said, which have led people to reach conclusions about you, and to ascertain whether those conclusions are fair and reasonable or not. That's it. I want to play you another clip. This is where you talk about why white people are justified in being racist. Let's take a listen to this.
First, white people are every single bit justified in being racist. Every single bit justified, to the extent that that means going out of your way to avoid black people when you see them.
You stand by that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So white people should go out of their way to avoid black people when they see them.
Absolutely. They would be wise.
Why?
Because it's a lose-lose proposition. If you're Irina Zarutska and you don't walk the other way, you get stabbed to death and you die. If you're somebody else and you walk on the subway and you stand near a black person or something, maybe it's fine. It's a lose-lose proposition. So no, I think that white people have been beaten into submission, that we're afraid to tell the truth about it. And the truth is that when you go into these major cities like New York or Chicago, I believe she was in North Carolina, there is a menace, which is young, black, adolescent men. They're extremely violent. And we have been told that we have to pretend like they are every other person. We have to be colorblind to that. And we're supposed to go and be in the midst of all this danger. And I think that at this point, it's gotten out of control. You look at the BLM movement, they said that the reason that black people, are violent, or the reason there's crime, is because of police brutality. redlining or all these other things. They said we need to get rid of the police. We need to defund them. And a lot of cities did. A lot of cities like Chicago, for example, the police changed the rules of engagement. They don't chase them. It's not a felony if you steal a certain amount of merchandise. They won't chase them on foot. And now the city's totally up for grabs. And now whether you're in the Gold Coast or whether you're on the Mag Mile or you're in the worst neighborhoods in the city, you might get shot, you might get mugged, someone might run up on you. And I tell my followers, it is better to be perceived as racist or racist and walk the other way and maybe keep your life than to say, I'm a good anti-racist. I don't mind that this person's making me uncomfortable. Maybe he's looking a little froggy. I'm going to sit down because I'm a good person and get stabbed, mugged, whatever. And by the way, this is a strategy. They call it the friendly stranger. There's a crew of them. They do this in Chicago. They stand outside bars, black people. They approach strangers. It's a robbery crew. And they pretend to be a friendly stranger, and then they mug them. And stupid white people say, oh, hi, yeah, nice to meet you. You know, they grin, they laugh, they put up with the nonsense, and then they get mugged, or worse. Sometimes they get executed. And so as a white person,
how do you feel about mass shootings at school?
I think they're bad.
Who do you think commits the vast majority of the mass shootings?
I'm sure it's white people.
Right. So how do you feel about that?
That's actually not true.
I think that white people do more
That's actually not true. You see, a mass shooting is defined according to U.S. crime statistics as a killing or injuring of more than 2 or 3 people, I believe. And it is the majority black gang violence that holds the king position there. You can fact check me on that. Oh, shit. My bad. I lost where we were at. We were doing so good.
No, for the most part.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of your father?
You are. Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Own it. And that black people, are violent, or the reason there's crime is because of police brutality, or redlining, or all these other things. They said we need to get rid of the police. We need to defund them. And a lot of cities did. A lot of cities like Chicago, for example, the police changed the rules of engagement. They don't chase them. It's not a felony if you steal a certain amount of merchandise. They won't chase them on foot. And now the city's totally up for grabs. And now whether you're in the Gold Coast or whether you're on the Mag Mile or you're in the worst neighborhoods in the city, you might get shot, you might get mugged, someone might run up on you. And I tell my followers, it is better to be perceived as racist or racist and walk the other way and maybe keep your life than to say, I'm a good anti-racist. I don't mind that this person's making me uncomfortable. Maybe he's looking a little froggy. I'm going to sit down because I'm a good person and get stabbed, mugged, whatever. And by the way, this is a strategy. They call it the friendly stranger. There's a crew of them. They do this in Chicago. They stand outside bars. Sometimes they get executed. And so as a white person,
how do you feel about mass shootings at school?
Okay, here we go.
I think they're bad.
Who do you think commits the vast majority of the mass shootings?
I'm sure it's white people.
Right. So how do you feel about that?
It's not true.
I think that white people do more antisocial violence. I think black people participate in more gang violence. I think that's the difference.
What's the difference to the victims?
There's no difference to the victim, but it's a different kind of crime. And it's a different proportion also. Do you know what percentage of white people are school shooters?
I know that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools in America this century were perpetrated by young white men.
All right. Mass shootings in school perpetrated by who? So very specific, very narrow target demographic. He's not talking about mass shootings. And this is why Piers is so good at his job. This is why he's so skilled. This is why he's attempting to run over Nick Fuentes. He knows if he plays these rhetoric games, he's going to win because according to his cherry-picked, Justin Trudeau, well, 2 or 3 years ago, he showed a snapshot of the Canadian economy, and it was like, oh, it's going up. And then you zoom out from the graph, and it's going up, and then it's going down, right? That's essentially the same game that Piers Morgan is playing here. It's a lie of omission.
And
I'm curious.
I'm curious whether your advice would be to people who have kids in these schools.
Is my mic working? What proportion?
Should they avoid white people at school? Should people with the kids at school avoid young white men at school?
No.
Okay.
Do you know what per capita means? Do you know proportionality? There are more black people proportionally that engage in violent crime or are involved in gangs, especially in these major cities, than there are white people that are school shooters compared to the entire white population. And everybody understands that.
Two-thirds of mass shootings at school perpetrated by white people.
But what proportion of white men commit school shootings? That's the question.
I've just told you. It's 60-65% of school shootings by white people.
You're telling me what proportion of school shootings are committed by white people. I'm saying what proportion of white people have committed school shootings. Are you playing dumb or are you just not that smart?
What difference does that make to the children lying dead on the ground?
See, now you want to jump on the victims. The difference is you're asking, would you fear white people or black people? And that's the difference. The difference is in terms
what I'm saying to you is by your logic, if we now have agreed that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools are committed by white people and predominantly young white men, then presumably your advice would be to avoid young white men because they perpetrate these massacres. But it won't be because they're white, right?
So are you playing dumb or are you actually dumb?
Maybe
it's
I'm
about
dumb.
proportionality.
Maybe I'm dumb.
You are because you're, well, I don't think you are dumb. I think you're smart actually, but you're deliberately avoiding per capita. And everybody knows that's the difference. What proportion of white men are school shooters? It's probably 0.0000001%. What proportion of black men have committed violent crimes? It's probably like 5%. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's very high. And I would add to that, even as it concerns schools, why do you think parents pay a super high property tax to live in a school district where there's white people? Because they know that if they go to the black school, it's going to be the Bloods and the Crips. It's going to be gangs. It's going to be, you talk about school shootings. Nobody talks about all the school shootings that are committed by gangbangers in and around the school and all the other violence that's associated with that. I mean, these schools in the south side of Chicago, it's just not livable.
I have an answer for you, Nick. So the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings is actually the same for black and white.
For white people, the proportion of
the proportion
again,
of the population.
are you hearing it? No.
So I think the truth of your statistics is a lot of them don't bear much scrutiny. We have a bunch of fact checkers checking all this in real time because you do have a tendency to just come out
I've
with
got
a
the
little
team
baloney.
of people trying to fuck you
And
up.
when you say,
okay,
well, it's true. And when you're confronted with reality, you don't like it.
What's the figure? What proportion of white people have committed school shootings? With white people as the denominator and white people that have committed school shootings as the numerator, what's that percentage?
For both black and whites, the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings generally is about the same.
No. Tell me the number, and then
the only focus of your attention is the black shootings, the black crime. You don't want to live around black people. You want to avoid black people. You don't want interracial marriages or relationships that may produce black people. And yet, when I point out to you that there are many parts of crime in America where actually there's a majority of white people that perpetrate them, you don't care. You don't have any interest in that. It doesn't exercise.
It's the framing. I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to replay that. This is key. We're trying to do this stream to understand the mind of Piers Morgan and how he goes into this from a malignant and malevolent perspective. I'm going to rewind a little bit.
That there are many parts of crime in America where actually there's a majority of white people that perpetrate them. You don't care. You don't have any interest in that. It doesn't exercise your mind. Maybe because
no one's buying this. This argument lost. No one is buying this. Everybody understands per capita, and people can even see what you race ahead and say, well, we're comparing the proportion of white and black school shooters. I said, no, compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue, is that you're very likely, if you encounter black people or a young black man in the city, that you're going to be the victim of a violent crime, of a robbery, a mugging, a car theft, a carjacking, or a murder. That's the difference, and it's about proportionality. And everybody has that because we all live in reality. You want to talk about product of your environment. People that live in New York, Chicago, LA, we live in reality. We live in this environment and we see what it's like. And the threat, the danger in terms of probability it's not even comparable. And I would say this to your point. if you're in a high school and truly, if you see a white person who looks like a little autistic, he's got the SSRI stare and he reaches for a backpack, people joke and say
80% of these school mass shootings are done by people on psychotropic drugs. And that's why they have the black box label on the antidepressants. That's why that's there. And just like the young black male crime murder problem, this is something that has to be addressed, right? I think that that's a huge issue. I think that's a huge embarrassment to the white community as well. Just because one thing is happening doesn't mean another thing is not happening. And Piers Morgan loves to play that game. And he's very selective in the way that he does it. He's very selective in the way that he asks questions, even from the framing of how he's bringing up these statistics being incredibly narrowed down and zoomed in, like I talked about earlier. I mean, he really is a pro. And like, this is why I, at least at this point in my life, would not go on a show like Piers Morgan Uncensored. I know he'd get me. And, you know, it really speaks to Fuentes's integrity. It speaks to Fuentes's experience. It speaks to his skill level and just natural talent level that he's able to go on a show like this and not just get completely railroaded. Because up until watching this, I really thought the only strategy was to yell at Piers Morgan and to get him rocked and get him off his game. And then kind of go in for the KO. Nick Fuentes is kind of playing the outside foot battle here. And it's pretty cool to see. I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting him to be more quiet from the clips that I'd seen. Of course, and I should have realized this. Of course, they were all biased towards Piers Morgan. But when you look at the full thing in context, it really is. It's an attempted railroading that's really being jujitsu shut down.
Run. Similarly, if you see a jalopy pulling up with a bunch of black people in it and they got their pants around the ankles, you're going to run also. And I'm saying the same thing. The difference is, the latter happens much more often. It's much more common. You know, in Chicago, there's like 10,000 carjackings and car thefts every day. It's in the thousands. It happens all the time. How many mass shootings committed by autistic SSRI white people? I don't even know. I mean, it's probably in the single digits in the last decade in this city. That's the difference, and everybody knows that. But you're really just trying to carry water for liberal ideology. It's an ideological position.
No. Yes, you are. It's the secular religion. It's the religion of the white replacement that Piers Morgan has signed on to. He says, hey, I don't care if my country isn't my country anymore. As long as I get the bowl of curry, it's okay. And, you know, hey, that's his perspective, but he's not being intellectually honest. He's coming at this like, I'm a moderate actor and I'm trying to understand you. Nick Fuentes, I'm trying to understand how you think, because the statistics that I look at, they don't reflect the worldview that you represent. When in fact, the statistics that you're selecting, Piers, are complete bullshit on their face. They're zoomed in microcosms of the bigger picture that you're not showing to people. And Nick is showing that bigger picture to people.
No, I'm really not. I can absolutely say, yes, there is way too much black on black crime, for example, involving guns in Chicago.
And black on white also.
Yes, but there is way too much gun violence in Chicago. Right? I mean, it's indisputable. I've got no problem saying that. The difference is I don't then lead myself into a thought process where I have to avoid all black people in case they shoot me. And you've already conceded that you are.
Well, you don't live here. You don't live here. I mean, you should probably avoid the radical Muslims with the zombie knives. That's more your flavor. But of course, if they give you a bowl of curry or something, it's okay.
Racist. So when people hear you then say, I don't want to be living anywhere near black people, they already have heard you say, I'm a racist. So they assume you're doing that because of people.
I've heard black people say the same shit. I've heard Mexican people say the same shit. Hell, I've heard Asian people say the same shit. They're the most racist of all, let me tell you. And to pretend that people don't have these inherent biases and to pretend that the biases aren't there for a reason is just to be intellectually dishonest. And, you know, Piers knows this. He's smart, but he comes at it from the framework of, you know, being a traitor. So he's fine with it, right? But he's acting like it's not even a real thing.
People's skin color. I don't think you would probably dispute that, right?
Well, you're separating two different things. The monologue when I said I don't want to live around black people, that was after Irina Zarutska got shot. And it's true. I mean, they are a largely in this city, in Chicago, the South Side, the West Side, huge criminal population.
Right. So a black schizophrenic who's been arrested, I'm not sure what the number is. I think it's dozens of times, and they let him out on bail, and it's all the second chance, it's the rehabilitation. You're going to get better. when it's like a schizophrenic, demon-possessed man. They let him out of jail. They let him out of jail. They let him out of jail. He gets on the subway. The little Ukrainian girl gets on the subway. She doesn't know anything about America. She just sits down. He's right behind her. He pulls out the knife. He stabs her in the neck. He stabs her again. He stabs her again. And then he walks out, and you can hear him say, like, I killed that white girl. And so if someone else is making it racial, you're not allowed to address that and also come at it from the same context and same perspective. See, it's a double standard. They hold themselves to another standard, and then you get held to they hold themselves to a standard. They hold you to another standard. And notice it's not even the black people doing this. A lot of the black people agree with Nick, right? And maybe not to the same degree. And like, I'll go on to defend black people. I think a lot of these reasons why we live in this society and we have these problems with specific minority groups is because of a cultural decay that was really implemented by the government to create a permanent underclass. And I think that that's true. I think that that's a tragedy. But at the end of the day, if the person that kills the person kills them for a racial reason, and this happens a lot, and this happens over and over and over again, and then you look at the perspective as a white person, you're not allowed to get angry about it. You're like, well, there are a lot of social economic factors that come into play, and it is what it is. You're not allowed to be angry that, one of your own is killed. The black people, they got mad when George Floyd died, got murdered, right? So we're not allowed to do the same. When things are racially motivated, we're not allowed to be upset, but they're allowed to be upset. We're not playing this game anymore. It's not 2015. We don't give a fuck. Like we don't care. And I think that's what Nick is representing here. And Piers comes from a conquered nation, and his frame of reference, he can't even understand the American ethos, the American ideal of freedom, self-sufficiency, being away from the government, being the king of your own castle. An interesting thing. They used to say an Englishman's home is his castle. And that's where, in fact, we get our castle law self-defense doctrine comes from, right? Like if someone comes here and tries to kick in my door right now, I can shoot them because I'm in my home. I'm being attacked. There's an act of aggression and someone's trying to break in here. I don't know what they're trying to do, but it's grave bodily harm or murder that I believe reasonably they're trying to commit. I can kill them. If someone breaks into Piers Morgan's house, you know what he does? He goes to the bedroom, he takes off his pants, he takes off his underwear, and he bends over because that's what you're supposed to do in Britain. So he's coming like these Europors, these British people, and to anyone that's European in the audience, like, our ancestors, my ancestors come from there. I respect you. I'm sorry for your current situation, but you guys, you're screwed. And we live in different worlds. And Piers Morgan is trying to come at this from a perspective of a place where, it would be illegal to say the things I'm saying on this broadcast, right? So I don't like British people. Really don't like British people because of our history here as a nation. We were the first to rebel against their evil rule. I really don't like British people telling me what to think and how to live my life. I really don't, especially after what they did to the world with the rape and colonization and what they've done to themselves in their own history after importing the same people that they screwed over. And I mean, like, it's cause and effect, right? But I don't like a British person. I don't like a Europor in general telling me what to think or how to do. I don't think Nick does either. Shut up, go back, pay your immense energy bill, send more money to Ukraine, and you know what? Invite the Pakistani migrant into your home and let him rape your wife.
And I don't want to live anywhere near it. And I do. I want to live in a white neighborhood. I think that that's extremely desirable. And I think even
Nick,
black people
Nick, you're perfectly entitled to that view.
You're perfectly
But when you have obviously prefaced all this by saying, I am a racist,
as well,
unashamedly, then people will assume that all your thought processes about all of these issues are driven by an aversion to people based on their skin color, which is the purest personification.
No. It's not skin color. It's not someone being black that makes them evil or makes them dangerous. It's the societal conditions that have been shown that this population in this specific group, especially Chicago, where he's talking about, it's not black people. It's not the majority of black people. It's a very small minority, 5%. But hey, 5% is 1 in 20. And if you're walking down the street in South Chicago, which you shouldn't be there to begin with, ladies and gentlemen, you should avoid that area at all costs. It's perfectly reasonable to cross the street. And I don't think that that's a radical opinion. I would say that to my black co-host. And, I can't speak for Tim, but I think he could understand that perspective, right?
Of racism.
Well, it's not an aversion. I would say it's the opposite. I like
my own people. My own people are familiar to me, and I think that's true across the board. I think that people seek out other people that are like themselves, and
everyone else does
this,
it,
whether it's
but
blacks,
the white
Hispanics,
people.
Asians.
Everyone else is encouraged
I
to do
get
it.
a lot of attacks when I talk about that I'm against interracial marriage. And what's funny is that every other group is against interracial or interethnic marriage.
This is true. And I'm not against that. It would be hypocritical with the girls that I date for me to say that I'm against that. I'm not against that. Now, are you allowed to not like that as an American? And you're allowed to hold that perspective, and I can disagree with you? Yes. Piers Morgan is acting like it's a crime because, that's the point. That's the perspective. It is a crime if Nick was a British citizen to say these things, right?
Jews,
but you're the
Chinese,
product of an interracial marriage.
Yeah, I mean, that's debatable.
Not
Let's
really.
say for the sake of argument, sure.
No, you're the product of an interracial marriage, and your father is part Mexican. You're literally,
for the sake of argument,
the very person you've just told me you want to avoid.
What race is Hispanic? Is that a race?
Well, what do you think it is?
I'm asking you, what race is Hispanic?
Hispanic, of course it's a race. It's called Hispanic.
It's a mix between two races. It's a mix between indigenous Americans
it's not white,
and Europeans.
though, is it? It's not white.
Well, you're more of a racial purist than me. You got like
not
a
really. You just keep saying you only want to live in a white neighborhood, but you're literally from a mixed race background yourself. You've literally got Mexican blood.
I know, and I live in a non-white neighborhood too. I'm trying to get out of here, though. But I'm trying to get out. But here's the thing:
Do you have any non-white? Do you have any non-white friends? Genuine question.
Most of my friends are non-white. Most of my friends are not, and non-white people love my show.
How many are black?
The honesty.
How many of your friends are black?
Many of them, like at least a dozen.
Wow.
Yay.
This boomer guilt tripping, man. This boomer guilt tripping. It's a secular religion. Like you must have a certain quotient of black people that you're friends with in order to be a good person. I mean, if Fuentes said, "Hey, I don't have any black friends," I don't know, but of course he does from the area that he's from and whatnot. And like, look, man, I got black friends. Everyone's got friends of different ethnicities and different groups have different perspectives on each other, right? This is a boomer thing. And, we have this beautiful period during the 90s and early 2000s that I got robbed of, that I know most young people got robbed of and didn't really get to experience, where we left this behind. But what happened? The Tea Party on the right and Occupy Wall Street on the left. We started having collective class consciousness. We started realizing it's not black versus white versus brown versus red. It's the rich versus the poor. It's the billionaire oligarch class that actually runs our country. That's the issue. That's the real situation. That's a lot of what Fuentes addresses on his show. But notice how Piers Morgan will never have that conversation. He'll never do it. Hey, why are conditions so bad? Why are the people so fucked up? Why are all the people so fucked up? It's very simple. It's been done by design. They've made us fight with each other so they can rob us and rape us and steal everything we have. And the people robbing and raping are the people with all the money and all the power. And Piers Morgan is complicit in that. He's complicit in the destruction of his own nation. But because Fuentes says prejudiced things from time to time, he's the bad guy. I mean, Piers Morgan is a villain. Like this is a British guy who came over here and tried very hard to take our guns for like half a decade. This man's an anti-American terrorist in my view.
Ye being one who you know, Sneeko being another who you also know.
Yeah. So how do they feel when you say you just want to be away from any black people, walk away from them?
Well, you know what Ye told me? I'll tell you verbatim what he said. That it doesn't come from a place of, and you use the word aversion. That's the first thing I'll actually dispute.
Ye said something to the effect of ends being ends.
Okay.
It's not an aversion on the basis of skin color, because that would seem to suggest it's
I'm just quoting Kanye
like a
West.
stubborn, irrational bigotry. I don't consider myself a bigot. I consider myself a racial realist. I'm realistic about how the races are, and I speak provocatively about it. And I speak provocatively about our tribalistic instincts and tendencies as human beings. And I'm not a liberal ideologue that says that over time and with enough education, we're all going to see this great brotherhood where blind and everybody's the same. I don't think that's ever going away. I think that race is real. It's not just skin deep. It matters to us and it matters to each other. And black people know that, and Hispanics know that, and
Yes,
Asians
it's
know
about
that,
character.
and people like me that have partial Mexican ancestry, we know that too. And I think on that basis, we can have mutual respect and understanding, not aversion based on skin color.
The reason I use the word aversion is you literally said that you should walk the other way if you see black people. That is an aversion to black people based on their skin color.
No, that's called economy of information. That's economy of information. That's safety. And I said in the same monologue, if you watch it, it's like, I feel sorry. The problem is you clip the 10 seconds. I don't know if you watched the whole show, but in that monologue, I said, most black people are not violent or criminals. I said, and it's unfortunate that we're going to offend them when we turn and walk the other way. I said,
and the people that the small minority of violent black people hurt the most are the other black people, and that's represented in the statistics. That's why the murder rate is so high. They kill each other. They kill each other, and they kill their unborn children in the womb. I mean, the black abortion rate in New York, more black babies are aborted in New York than are alive. And when you think about stuff like that, you think about Piers Morgan calling someone racist and smearing their father and calling him racist and trying to hang him this way. Piers Morgan is pro-abortion. Piers Morgan wants black people to die in the womb, literally to not be born, but then you're not allowed to have some sort of awareness and cross the street. Just make it make sense to me. You know, when I was like 11, 12 years old, I was protesting outside of Planned Parenthood abortion clinics with signs showing these statistics saying save black babies. So we're the bad people? No. You're the evil one, Piers. You are the evil one. I mean, this guy supports open borders. This guy supports abortion. This guy supports gun control, which puts the guns in the hands of the criminals and not the hands of the citizens. This guy is actually pro-murder, pro-rape, pro-death, pro-terrorism, but he's able to come across as morally good because he's speaking the language of the secular religion. We're not playing that game anymore. We're going to fix the societal issues. We're going to build a better society where we don't have these problems. And we're going to get rid of ultimately the rich white liberal, the people like you, Piers. And it's going to take a coalition of white people, black people, brown people, everyone coming together and realizing we've been played off this racial narrative. We've been played our entire lives off it. Ultimately, we have a lot more in common than we do in difference. And it shouldn't be a crime. It shouldn't even be controversial to realize that certain demographics, because of the systemic oppression, not done by the white people in general, the poor or the middle class or even the upper class white people, it's done by the government. Just because the oppression done by the government reduces a class that used to be the most successful into the most decrepit, we're addressing the government. We're not addressing this false racial narrative that's been put up. Who gave the crack to the black people? Who gave the gangster rap to the black people? Who gave the single motherhood free money to the black people? Well, it was Lyndon B. Johnson. And what did he say? I'm going to have these N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. Now, notice Piers Morgan don't care about that. Piers Morgan don't know about that. And if Piers Morgan does know about that, he doesn't give a shit about it. See, the societal rape, the governmental rape, the systemic oppression, which comes from our leaders, the people in power, and we all know who they are, ladies and gentlemen, that can't be addressed. That'll never be talked about. That's a non-issue. It's the individual people having interactions that we must control, we must manipulate, and you must either submit or kill. Right? You kill your oppressor or submit to your oppressor locally, but then we all worship the state. And we're not playing this game anymore. No more secular religion, Piers. It's time to stop.
But the problem is we don't know. We can't tell. And someone like Irina Zarutska, she sat down in front of a black man with her headphones in and wasn't paying attention because she was being a good liberal and said, I
would tell Tim this. I would never do that. I would never do that. Now, it depends. Like if someone's dressed nice and appears to be like a normal, good citizen, like most black people are, the situation may be different. But that guy, I mean, we've seen the footage. I would not sit in front of that dude. I'd be fucking crazy to do that. And that's not a wild statement. That's not a crazy, irrational, racist thing to say. That's just being aware of, hey, I'm in this city. I'm in this demographic commits most of the crime. And this guy, he don't look right. And I'm not going to be by him. I don't think that's racial at all. I think that's just being smart.
I'm not uncomfortable by it.
And see, Nick calls himself a racist. I don't even think it's racist to say that. I think a lot of black people would, I think most black people wouldn't sit in front of that person.
I'm progressive. Then she got stabbed in the neck. And I said, it's unfortunate that you would have to sit behind the black.
Look at that. Ooh. All right, I'm gonna try to do something. I don't want to fuck the screen up. Can I zoom in? Oh, that's so lame. It only lets me do the bar.
Man, to be safe.
Look at the rage. Look at the rage. Look at this person. Would you let this person babysit your children?
If he's not violent or schizophrenic, he might be offended by that. I said, but I would rather offend him than die.
How many deranged white men have committed atrocious acts of murder in the last 10 years in America?
Proportionally, far fewer.
But
far fewer.
How many? Do you know how many?
You have a research team. You pull it up. I don't have it in front of me.
You're obviously extremely exercised by that one story, which was horrific for the record, absolutely horrific, and should never have happened. The person who perpetrated that evil act had a string of previous offenses and should have been picked up more, and it should have been amplified more. I completely concur with.
Okay. I completely agree with you. I completely agree. That person should have stayed in jail and have been arrested. Well, why was he let out? He was let out because these liberal DAs, these Soros DAs that get funded by foreign money to be put in our nation, they have these racial biases themselves. They let black and brown people out at a higher rate than they let white people out. So if they're allowed to be racist, if the district attorney is allowed to be racist, then why is Nick Fuentes not allowed to be racist? And why do you discount the fact? Why do you not even mention why he was let out in the first place? I mean, if you want to look at a dishonest actor, you need to go no further than to watch Piers Morgan Uncensored. He truly is the worst. He's very, very good. I wouldn't call him talented. He's just very practiced. And this goes to show that an untalented person like Piers or like anyone can do a show, because with enough practice, with enough training, you can get pretty good at your own style. And Piers is a slow roller. That's what he is. He's a slow roller. Fuentes is a fast talker and a fast actor. Piers is a slow roller. And what Piers is attempting to do right now in this conversation, I said I was a fan of broadcast media, and that's why, like, beyond even the ideas and stuff, I like to examine the personal interdynamics between people and see how they do shows and see how they do shows when they collaborate together. Piers is attempting to slow Fuentes down and is attempting to not let Fuentes paint his main narrative, which is his thesis statement. And if Piers was intellectually honest, he'd let him do that. But by showing the 10-second clip and by railroading him and by bouncing from provocative issue to issue to issue, and by, like Nick Fuentes says, like, is the mic on? Like, will you stop interrupting me? Can I please talk? By slow rolling him, he's attempting to prevent Nick Fuentes from getting his greater message out, which is we live in a destroyed society. It was destroyed by design, right? And that's the main issue. The main issue is not the crimes between individual people. It's the system. It's the prison planet. It's the prison nation that's been built around us all, so all these things happen. And while we blame each other, the rape of our own nations goes on. And, you know, maybe I'm giving too much credit to Piers Morgan if I say he knows that already. Maybe I'm being far too generous, but at the same time, I think he does know. And I think he's a dishonest actor.
With all of that. But I just suspect you have no idea how many white people have committed similar crimes, do you?
No, because I know it's far fewer from experience. Okay. Because it's like you said. Well, and hang on. And I would add to that.
And I see someone in the comment section talking about being colorblind. That's how I try to be, man. Like, that's how I try to be. But if I see someone that looks like a thug, talks like a thug, acts like a thug, doesn't matter what race they are, it could be a white person all tatted up and looking real mean, it's got that look in their eye, it could be Mexican, could be black, I'm avoiding them. And it just so happens that the largest group of those people by race happen to be black people, right? That small people, right? So ultimately, it's like Fuentes says, if it comes down to survival and living another day, that's all that matters, right? But to Piers, it doesn't matter. As long as he gets to eat the curry, it's okay.
You know, Irina Zarutska wasn't the first one. That was also after Austin Metcalf was killed in Texas.
Sure.
After Carmelo
how many
Anthony
times has it been perpetrated by white people?
Well, hang on. Let me finish my point.
But you're implying that white people don't do this. And my point to you, Nick.
No. Everyone commits crime. A small minority of this one racial group commits vastly, hundreds, thousands of times more of a percentage of violent crime versus everyone else's violent minority in their own racial group. That's the point Fuentes is making. That's what he should have said on the broadcast, and maybe he does say it going into the future. This is intellectual dishonesty. No one is saying that white people are angel cupcakes that have never committed a crime, and that like that's not the argument that's being made here. The argument that's being made here is, hey, I live in America. This is a specific issue that we have to deal with this very violent minority of people. But Piers Morgan, he paints. He puts this false. He paints a false dichotomy.
Fuentes is of course.
Oh, I never said white people don't do it.
Of course, deranged white people commit heinous acts, but you don't either know.
No disagreement.
You neither know nor care, or maybe both. Maybe you do know but don't care. You only seem to be focused on black people who commit crimes. And again, if you hadn't prefaced the whole debate about racism by openly conceding you are a racist, I could read other connotations into what you've been saying. But once you've said, I'm a racist, and then you only talk about black crime, I think people can watch this and they can say, yeah, he's a racist. And everything that he says about crime is driven through the prism of being a racist who judges people according to their skin color.
Well, it's funny because it's quite on the contrary. And I said this in a similar monologue. You know, the problem is not that I wake up and I walk down the street and I see someone that doesn't look like me and it makes me angry. The problem is there's a pattern of behavior, which we've all seen. Blacks in America have become narcissistic, and they become narcissistic because they've been told they're victims of racism. They're victims of slavery. They've been told really there's no accountability. If they're rude, if they're inconsiderate, if they're criminal, they are told that they have no agency for their actions. They're being told, if you act in this way, it's because the white man made you that way. It's because the system's rigged against you. And so we have been telling black people this for a generation, and now there's no rules. Now they go, and what we hate to see as decent people, not even as white people, but decent people, even black people too, what we hate to see is rudeness, obnoxiousness, inconsideration, criminality, violence. And that's that pattern of behavior that we see all over social media, on
so
the
just
body
to be clear,
footage,
you don't like black people who play the victim and are rude. Is that your position?
I don't like that pattern of behavior.
And who are narcissists?
I see where this is going.
Yeah, you're ahead of me.
Turn this around on
you're
me.
Ahead of me, aren't you? Because when I said, what black friends have you got? You said,
I am kind of black, aren't I?
No, not that. You said,
yeah,
I'm not saying you. I'm just saying your choice of black friend is Ye, who is arguably the number one black victimhood narcissist in America. Do you understand the problem? So he's your friend. He's one of the very few black people you want to be associated with, but he's the epitome of what you just said you abhor about narcissistic black people.
I disagree. I disagree with you, and I'll tell you why. Because Ye, if you've ever met him in real life.
I have, yeah.
Okay, well, then you know. He's nothing but polite, considerate.
Actually, he was very rude to me the last two times I interviewed him. He's a supreme narcissist, and he's also...
you keep interrupting me. You're very rude. Are you black? Because you're being very rude by interrupting me right now.
To you.
I'm giving you a hard time, but I do want to finish my point. I do want to finish my point about Ye. He is a guy who, when I was with him, wanted to make sure that everybody was heard. Everybody felt included. He's actually a very soft-spoken guy, very polite. And by the way, not violent. When you look at all the rappers that are in the music game, many of them, especially from Chicago, drill rap, they're talking about killing people, shooting people, they gangbang. He notably, if you know about him, he got his start because he was a nerd. He wore a backpack and a polo, and he wasn't a gangbanger. He rapped about his feelings and girls and his dreams and his ambitions. So no, and by the way, he would tell me all the time, he doesn't even feel black. They make him feel not black because he doesn't do those things, because he's soft-spoken, because he's artistic, because he's a bit of a nerd or likes fashion. So I would disagree. He's actually not like that at all.
Okay.
We're talking
he's also a Hitler-loving anti-Semite.
Well, you're anti-Semite too, Piers, because the Arabs are Semites and you love them getting murdered. You've covered up for the bombings and the killings of the children and the mass killings at the aid sites. You've done it all. So to call someone an anti-Semite when you've covered up for the genocide in Gaza, I mean, Piers, you're a Nazi collaborator, essentially. And, speaking on Kanye West for a second, I thought it was brilliant the way that Kanye West wore the swastika and wore the Klan hood and came out and did all that stuff, because he said, hey, I can do all of this and get criticized and called a racist and get called a Nazi, but hey, they're killing kids, they're killing people in my own community, criticizing Jewish power and criticizing genocide. But hey, if I do this artistically, then I'm evil. And I think it was a brilliant play. I think it was brilliant artwork from him. And I think it's some of the highest art that we've seen in a very long time. Now, he might have mental problems. He might be a little nuts. I've only met the man once, and he was wearing kind of a gimp outfit. Let's just put it that way, when he came on the Alex Jones show. And, that was a very weird experience. He was standing in the bathroom with the door open, kind of just staring out when I met him for the first time and for the only time. But I consider that to be an art piece. I consider that to be a cultural critique. And ultimately, it comes back to the same thing. You do not get to act like you are the moral arbiter of truth and you decide what's right or wrong. And it's your secular religion. It's secular humanism. And this is the right way to live. And we're all just archaic cavemen. When you cover up for a genocide committed by the nation that basically controls the world. And Piers has been pretty open about, coming out and, raising some eyebrows now, nearly or after 2 years after October 7th, when they immediately rolled in and started the mass genocide and mass bombing and mass killing of the Palestinian people. He's been a little critical now. So, we got to say that he's not still 100% doing it to this day. But hey, I'm sure Nazis after World War II, I'm sure they were a little ashamed of being Nazis. So Piers, it's just, you don't have the moral high ground. You don't have the moral high ground when you do whataboutisms. When people talk about Palestinian kids being killed, you go, what about October 7th? What about October 7th? Oh. You don't get to do it anymore. We're not playing this game. You can call them a racist. You can call us a racist. I don't care. I'm not one. I wouldn't call myself one like Nick does. I certainly wouldn't do that. I love everybody. I'm a Christian. Everyone's created in the image of God. But ultimately, these labels have been used. It's like that great line in The Incredibles. Syndrome goes, when everyone's super, no one will be. When everyone's racist, no one will be. When everyone's a Nazi, no one will be. And that's what we've reached, right? You've made it meaningless. You've made it mean nothing because you back genocide in the Ukraine and in Gaza. You back it to the hilt. You love it. You've worshipped Zelensky. You've worshipped Netanyahu. This is what you do. And even now, when you're slightly critical because you're a slimy lizard and you see the way the wind is blowing, I mean, Piers. Nick should have had clips of you being pro-genocide ready. You love death. You love murder, but only when it's on a mass scale. You see, when it's one person hurting another person, oh, you can get morally outraged about that. Oh, you can say the stabbing of Irene is horrible. You can go there. But when it comes to backing wars, when it comes to backing corrupt governments, you're all in, buddy. That's your number one favorite thing to do. So we've reached a level of hypocrisy with these people that cannot even be quantified. And that's why Nick comes out and unapologetically just says, I don't give a fuck. Like, yes, you can call me a racist. I don't care, because you yourself, Piers, are a giant hypocrite. You presided over the rape and the death of your own nation, the conquering of your own nation. And you have you have greenlit and co-signed the genocides of multiple people across the globe by people in power. And you don't get to play the game of moral high ground anymore. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. Piers Morgan is a genocidal war pig scumbag. And that's just true. That's objectively true. You can look at his record. You can look at what he said about the Palestinians. You can look at the whataboutisms, and you can call him that on its face. And sure, hey, you can call Fuentes a racist. Which one is worse? What's being worse? Crossing the street because you have a prejudice, and that may keep you alive, or it may just be a racial act or whatever, or co-signing the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people and tens of thousands of children. I would say it's the latter. But, Piers, he wouldn't see it that way because he's paid not to.
We're going to take a little commercial break here, and we're going to come back and talk about anti-Semitism and your views about Jewish people, and indeed what you said about the same.
You know what? Fuck it. We may go till midnight tonight. This is going to be fun.
Subject matter. Angel Studios are back with a new
I love
must-see
all you in the
documentary.
audience, by the way.
It's called Thank You, Dr. Fauci, and you're going to hear a lot more about it over the next few months.
Wait, what? How do we get to Dr. Fauci? Is he shilling for Fauci? So okay. Not only is Piers Morgan. Not only is he a genocidal war pig, he's a genocidal vaccine poison clot shot pusher. I mean, the levels, it keeps compounding upon itself. The level of hypocrisy evident and present in this man. Piers Morgan advocates for the deaths of not just hundreds of thousands, but now with the vaccines, millions of people. He's a big pharma agent as well as a war pig. I didn't even know that. I'm sorry. I wasn't familiar with your game, Piers. I wasn't aware of this. Without getting too ahead of myself, let's just watch this. I was going to skip it, but I heard the Beagle torturer's name, so we got to play it.
Angel Studios are back with a new must-see documentary. It's called Thank You, Dr. Fauci, and you're going to hear a lot more about it over the next few months. Award-winning filmmaker Jenna Furst digs into the origins of COVID-19, a possible bio-arms race with China, and claims about history's biggest public health cover-up. It's not a right-wing film or a left-wing film. It's a film about transparency, which is something we should all care about. Furst pulls over documents and interrogates scientists, intelligence professionals, and whistleblowers. It's being described as Oppenheimer meets Outbreak. And if you've ever wondered what really happens behind closed doors, you'll want to see it. Angel Studios is powered by its guild members voting on real stories. You can find out Archie. Okay, back with Nick Fuentes. Let's just turn to anti-Semitism. In your interview with Stephen Crowder last week, you answered emphatically that you don't hate all Jews. Is that correct? That's your position?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to play you this clip.
Well, I don't hate any Jews. Let me just amend that. I don't hate any Jews.
Okay. Let's play this clip.
The reason I've had it is because my opposition to world Jewry and Israel is rooted in absolute, uncontestable fact. We have the truth on our side. That's why we're winning. Because we are telling the truth about the historical antagonism between Jews and Europeans, between Jews and Christians. The theological, historical, racial, cultural, and political antagonisms between organized Jewry and the Christians, organized Jewry and Europeans. And the reason that we are winning that argument is because it's real. It's true. I can prove it. I can show you. I can name the names. I can show you the paper trail, the money. That is why we're winning. That is why all of this is raising the consciousness.
When you say you have this opposition to world Jewry, I mean, it's one thing to criticize, for example, the Israeli government over what it's been doing in Gaza. I've done that myself. When you talk about world Jewry, I presume you're talking about the 15 million Jews in the world, and you are opposed to them. How does that square with your position that you don't hate any Jews?
Well, do you take issue with my use of the term world Jewry?
Well, what do you mean by that?
Or do you take issue with it? Do you have a problem with that?
Clarify what you mean by it.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. Live. The gaslighting's crazy because I use that expression on my show all the time. I say organized Jewry, world Jewry. And do you know that for like 30 years, the state of world Jewry, Barry Weiss has given it. You can look it up. It's on YouTube. She gives the state of world Jewry
what do you
address.
mean? But Nick, what do you mean by it?
I mean, you have to talk about, there's a concept of Jewish peoplehood. It's the sense that they are part of a common nationality, a common tribe, a common people. And so where they reside in Israel, the United States, or Europe, or elsewhere, they see each other above or maybe on a different level alongside their nationality, their state, wherever they reside. If they're in Germany, France, the United States, they see themselves as part of a transnational nation, of an international nation. The Jews in America, the Jews in Israel, they identify as Israeli or American, but they also have something in common. They identify as part of a common nation, which I would say there's a world Jewish population. It's world Jewry. And world Jewry has representatives. There is such a thing as the World Jewish Congress, where they actually elect, it's democratic,
It's almost like all groups of people, whether it's ethnic, religious, or both in the case of people that are Jewish, it's almost like all people get together for their own interests. But the only people that can't do that are white people. That is verboten, and that is not allowed because Nazi, 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 Hitler, 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 Adolf, 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 blah, 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 blah. And this is the point that Nick Fuentes is going to go on to make, and I know he's going to go on to make this point. Piers Morgan denies that we live in reality by denying that exists.
Local Jewish organizations elect representatives to represent proportionally the Jewish population in their area at the World Jewish Congress. And it's sort of like Davos. It's like the World Economic Forum, but it's exclusively for members of the Jewish nation that exists across the world. And so that's a real thing. And I didn't make that up, and that didn't come from 4chan. It's like I said in that clip, I read what they write. I read their books. I watch these speeches. I watch a speech from Barry Weiss. I pay very close attention. So that's what I mean by that. There is such a thing as it's a nation that exists across borders on a global scale. They're organized, and they have a national self-interest as that nation, as that tribe.
So if you don't hate any Jews, what do you like about them?
I like a lot of things about them. I think they're funny. I think they're smart. I think that they're pretty remarkable people. And as Christians, especially as Catholics, we say they're remarkable. And this has been adjudicated in Catholic doctrine for thousands of years. We say that they're a witness people. And so we actually, there's provisions inside of Catholic doctrine that says we need to give them special protections because they were a witness to Christ's passion. So, this is why you can't clip the show. You have to watch the whole thing. I say this repeatedly in interviews. I do think they're remarkable. By definition, they're exceptional people. It's just that there is a sort of natural opposition between them and Christians because of the theology. We believe that Christ is a Messiah. They don't. They have been a minority in Christian lands for thousands of years, and they have been pushed around and expelled, and they've been persecuted and segregated. And that's why there's a lot of paranoia. There's a lot of distrust. There's maybe some sense of chauvinism among Jewish people. So there is, like I said in that clip, there is an historical antagonism between these two peoples, between Christendom and Jewry, and that has always been the case in Europe. But I don't hate them, and I think I actually sort of understand them in a weird way. I think that because I've studied a lot of their politics, I think I really kind of know them in a way, and it doesn't come from a place of hatred.
Do you have any Jewish friends?
I do. I have many, yes.
But that's weird because you said this.
Jews and Christians have never been friends, ever. Not since Jesus Christ fought with the Pharisees. Have we ever been friends? Not since Saul was leading the charge persecuting the Christians. Not since the Roman Empire, not since the Middle Ages. Never. We've never been friends. We've never been allies. We've always been set against each other, actually. And even here in the United States, it was communist Jews who were the architects of both communism and the civil rights laws that are dispossessing white Christians of their land and civilization.
The Jews and Christians have never been friends ever, except for you and your Jewish friends.
Yeah, so easy. As peoples, as nations.
Got it.
Not saying every individual Christian, and of course there have been Christians and there have been Christian converts to Judaism.
And where does this come from? We get into this here. Why do we see this relationship between Christian people and Jewish people? Well, it's simple. Usury in the Christian ethos is illegal. You're not allowed to loan money with interest. So what did these Jewish groups did when they came into a country, when they came into a land? They were able to offer money to people, and they were able to charge interest, right? And that created a lot of negative relationships for the native populations that were there that kind of got used and taken advantage of in that process. So that's the relationship.
Jewish converts, Christian. You're nodding your head, but you're asking this. I'm saying as peoples, they've
never
I hear
been
you.
aligned. As a Roman, I'm a Catholic
okay.
like you, and I have many Jewish friends. I'm just trying to compute what you're trying to say, which is Jews and Christians have never been friends ever. And I'm like, well, you have Jewish friends. I have Jewish.
He's being hyperbolic. He says it all the time. He's being hyperbolic on his show. And then he explains himself in detail about what he actually believes and what his position is. And he said this at the start of the show. And Piers Morgan goes, well, there are two versions of a Nick Fuentes. There's the Nick Fuentes when he comes on to do an interview, and there's Nick Fuentes doing his podcast. And when he does his podcast, he's a racist, anti-Semite, evil man. And when he comes on other people's shows, he appears to be approachable and reasonable. I'm British. I sound smarter than I are because I have mastery of the Queen's English and the English.
Friends, we're both Catholics, therefore we're Christians. So it doesn't really quite add up.
Well, like I said, as peoples, there has been an historical antagonism as peoples. And you could even say the same about blacks in the United States. Of course, there were black and white people that were friendly with each other, but in many ways, they were set against each other as groups. And I think that's easy enough to understand.
The reason that many people think you're anti-Semitic is that you have regularly downplayed the Holocaust, and in particular, the number of Jewish people who were murdered by the Nazis. It's been said that you believe no more than several 100,000 have been killed. And I want to play you this clip.
People talk about, well, what about the gas chambers? Well, to the extent that that's real, I find that hard to believe, but to the extent that's real, there have been atrocities committed and genocides committed in all times and all places. Let's acknowledge why Hitler casts the long shadow. Because that confers a political benefit upon Jews. That's why.
It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right? Doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years. How long would it take you to make 6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there.
You think that's funny?
It's funny. It's amusing what you're doing because, that one was a joke. But do you want to talk seriously about the Holocaust?
I do, actually. I do, because I just find it extraordinary that you would think the Holocaust could ever be something that we could joke about.
Why? Too soon? Is it too soon to make jokes?
How many people do you think died in the Holocaust? How many Jewish people?
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe 7 million. What's the number? 6 million, something like that.
So you
8 million?
You concede that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust?
Possibly more. Possibly, we're discovering all the time. So it could maybe even be more than that.
So why have you doubted the numbers in the past?
I'll tell you why. I really think that every death is a tragedy, however many Jewish people died in the Holocaust. And I'm not a World War II historian, so I'm actually open to believing the official narrative, and I've read some of the conspiracy theories. And to tell you the truth, it's a rigorous debate. But what's interesting about this is in many countries, it's not even legal to talk about it. And that's really where my interest in the Holocaust begins and sort of ends, to tell you the truth, is that if you wanted to question the number, you would be put in jail in about, 17 or 18 European countries. And I think that's really the more interesting conversation, which is that this is almost like a religious dogma in the West. No other genocide, no other atrocity is treated like this. Could you imagine if in the United States they said the number of Palestinians killed in Gaza is 100,000, and if you don't say that, you're going to jail, you're banned on X, you can't have a job? That's the part that's totally insane. And a lot of people, they can't even make up their minds. I think it's actually done a disservice. If your goal, and I'm not saying you as Piers Morgan, but if you're an advocate for awareness about this, if your goal is to convince everybody that this is the way the Holocaust happened, I think the last thing you'd want to do is say that everyone that disagrees is in jail and is banned and you're not allowed to say it. So there's really been no open debate about the subject since the scholarship started to be produced about 60 years ago.
But there is no debate to be had about the number of people who were murdered.
There is no debate. There is no questioning. You are not allowed to do it. And he probably supports people being put in jail if they do it. Look, I don't know. I don't know how many people died. I don't care. I'll say 6 million, right? I mean, I have Jewish ancestry. All right. So you cannot question any historical event ever. And if you do it, like he said, in 18 European countries, you'll be thrown in jail. Now, the real issue there to me, as it seems to be to Nick, and it's correct that this is the real issue. The real issue is the censorship and the conspiracy against rights, against creating a society where ultimately you can't question something, because if you can't question something, eventually they're going to make it to where you can't question anything. And this is the building block upon where everything else is built, right? I'm not even getting into it. I'm not even delving into this topic. Maybe we'll do a future deep dive on it. I mean, it's very controversial stuff, but a lot of people talk about this issue on both sides, and on both sides it's used as a justification. And Piers Morgan and Nick Fuentes are getting into that right now.
Even the Nazis in the trials after the war confirmed the numbers. The amount of documentation that was recovered, notwithstanding the attempts by the Nazis to destroy it, the amount of documentation that was saved and preserved and used for trials and for historical record is unprecedented in the.
What about the 30 million people that starved to death during the pandemic and the supply chain shutdown and the global lockdown? What about 30 million? That happened a lot more recently. That impacts a lot more people today.
History of mass slaughter of human beings. So we have a very clear idea of how many people were gassed to death in the gas chambers. We have a very clear idea of how many were starved to death, were kept in ghettos, died of disease, of forced labor, of death marches. We know how many Jews were slaughtered. It's at least 6 million. What's interesting to me is that you appear to now concede that, which may be news to a lot of your regular viewers who have constantly heard you quibble with the number of Jews who died in the Holocaust. And for the record, just to confirm what I think you...
Well, it doesn't matter for the argument that he's presenting. The argument, he's not litigating the Holocaust. He made it very clear he wasn't litigating the Holocaust. He's litigating that it's an issue that you cannot touch. That it's so toxic and so evil in the secular religion. It's like Satanism, basically, to even question any historical event relating to that time period at all. I mean, and Piers is a supporter of people in the EU, which was set up by Hitler, and he's a supporter of genocide in Ukraine, genocide in Gaza. It's on its face ridiculous.
You told me you do now accept that at least 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust.
Well, no, I said it could even be higher than
well,
that.
it could be higher. That is
I think
true.
it's at least.
But you
I think you're right. It is at least. Oh, it's at least 6 million. But it could be 100 times more than that.
Okay, the people are going to be.
Let me respond to the rest of your question.
Sure.
What you're saying, I understand where you're coming from when you say it has been documented and there are confessions and so on. Let that speak for itself. But you don't see, your show is called Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Yep.
But the United Kingdom is censored and Europe is censored. And if you talk about these things, you will be put in jail in many countries.
Yes, that's what matters. That's what matters. It matters what's happening today. What's happening today, right now, and what's being used from the past to affect us now in the modern day. That's what matters. We're not talking about 80 or 100 years ago. We're not having that conversation. We're having a conversation about what's happening today.
People start to say, well, if the truth is so clear and if there's such overwhelming evidence, why do you need to throw people in jail for disagreeing? And you yourself said, well, there is no debate. I think everything is debatable. I think everything at least should be debated. And if
everything should be debatable. Yes, everything should be debatable. I don't know if everything is debatable, but after you have the debate about it, if there's a concrete fact, there's a concrete fact. You're not even allowed to have this conversation. America's the only nation really where you can have this conversation.
Very one-sided. Let the evidence speak. Don't throw people in jail. So do you think that Holocaust denial laws should be overturned?
I don't particularly agree with Holocaust denial laws. I don't think people should be imprisoned.
Okay, good.
Because I have a blanket view now, which has evolved slightly actually over the years, that I have a blanket view that speech should not be criminalized, right? People should be allowed to say what they want to say, and they should be then made.
Notice how he used to not believe that. And he admitted that right there. And he's so good at the rhetoric. This is British people. They use the accent and they use a few special words that didn't carry over to the States too well. They use it to paint themselves as super geniuses. He just admitted that he used to be pro-censorship, anti-free speech. He just admitted it right there. And you got to hold his feet to the fire too, because if we're pulling up clips of Fuentes being racist or being mean or whatever you want to say, what about all the clips and the articles and instances of you trying to censor people and take away their rights? Piers? Are you not a Nazi? Or are you not baby Hitler? I think he is baby Hitler. Just because you come out now and you got a new show that gets good ratings and you call yourself uncensored, you say you're pro freedom and pro free speech. I'm sorry, bud. Your past track record has led me to believe that you are a evil scumbag.
Accountable for what they say. If you have an employer, they can make a view about whether you are the right kind of person they want for their employment, as they would make a decision about anything else you do in life. So I actually believe that speech should never be criminalized. Is my personal view. I understand why in places like Germany, they have strong laws about it because they...
I understand in places like Germany why they have strong laws about it. Okay, so you're making excuses now. So you're not a free speech absolutist as you represent yourself to be. You're a fucking liar, Piers. I've said it like 5 times on the show already. Like, there you have it right there, ladies and gentlemen. Right there is the example of everything we've talked about tonight and going on into the future when we play more of the full interview. He is a hypocrite. He is a liar, and he is not to be trusted in any way. His past positions are not his past positions. They're his present positions, folks. And the irony of someone having a show called Uncensored and saying he's pro-free speech and saying he's pro-discussion and pro-dialogue and all that, but then he turns to Germany and what? Just because they had Hitler, they can't talk about things? Is that not an enslaved society?
Want to move on from what they believe was the most shameful moment in their history. I understand that.
So moving on means throwing people in jail. No, that would radicalize more people, you'd think, and it probably will, seeing how Europe is going to collapse into being new Afghanistan, new third world country. The entire EU will be a third world country. And even though Britain's not a part of the EU anymore, it'll be included in that too. This is how you're going to get the new Hitler. It's people like Piers Morgan being pro censorship and pro throwing people in jail.
Do I want that in my country? No. Am I appalled by what has been going on with free speech in United Kingdom in the last 2 or 3 years? Absolutely. It is ridiculous that people have been frog marched to prison cells for stuff they put on social media, right? So yeah, I do. I think what is more interesting to me about our exchange is I was not expecting you to go the opposite way. I was not expecting you to be so emphatic that at least
Zach Cav in the comments section on X. I don't see all your X comments, guys. It's very weird how StreamYard works. Only a limited number of them get through. It's boomer ideology. You hit it on the head here, man. This is 10 out of 10 stuff. It's boomer ideology. I am the best. I am the best. I can say one thing, but another second I can take another stance. And both make sense. Bow down to me. That it is literally the boomer entitlement.
These 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. And there'll be people watching this who I think will be very surprised by that, because you have built a reputation for being, if not a Holocaust denier, then somebody constantly questioning in a downward way the number of Jews who were...
Okay, so you're allowed to question in an upward way. You're allowed to be like, oh, maybe more got killed, but then you can't say less. You see how that's a double standard? You see how that's intellectually dishonest? You see how that's a falsehood on its face, folks? Like, look, I'm just repeating myself. I know I keep making this point. He is a hypocrite. He is a liar, and he is not to be trusted. Piers Morgan is probably the worst person in modern media or just media in general because he presents himself to be neutral. You know, I have an admiration for partisans. I have an admiration for Nick for that reason. People like Do Dissidents for that reason, although less. Like honestly, I think Do Dissidents, that's my favorite show. I like Fuentes, but he's probably number 2. Shout out to Keaton and Russell. But when you pretend that you are someone that is a truth seeker, and then you're pro-censorship, you're pro-genocide, you're pro-falsehood, and you're misrepresenting all of your positions. You say you're for free speech, then you're pro-censorship in Germany all of a sudden, and it all just gets wrapped into one big thing. Piers Morgan, he's one of the worst. He really, really, really is. He's up there. He's up there with Barry Weiss. He's up there with, who else would I say? He's up there with Hannity. He's up there with a lot of them. I'll think of more names.
Murdered. That doesn't appear to be what your position is now.
No, and here's what I would like to see for my entire career. when I started my show, it started with a good faith inquiry where I was questioning a lot of these narratives. And
He's
I
up there
said,
with Shmuley.
what is the answer on the other side? But what I found is that the answer was criminalized. So when you would talk about anything regarding Jews, Israel, the Holocaust, you could be in favor of the official narrative on those things. If you went against, you were banned, censored, and in some countries jailed. And so I actually haven't made up my mind on that because that's not really a matter of interest to me. And there's a lot of analysis and scholarship on both sides of the issue. And I've read both sides of the issue. And honestly, unfortunately, it's hard to judge because there's never been a debate on it. And there's never been a debate because of the stigma, because of the censorship. And I think that leads a lot of people to say, well, what do they have to hide? Because you can say on your show, well, I'm Holocaust denial laws, yet they still persist and the social consequences still persist. And I think that is the anomaly. And people have to wonder, okay, why is it that way? And what I said in that clip is the reason the Holocaust casts a long shadow is because it confers a political benefit upon organized Jewry. That is what they always fall back on. They cannot be criticized. They cannot be named. They cannot be talked about, lest there be another Holocaust. And no other tragedy is treated that way. And no other ethnic group has a get out of jail free card. Just play that. Anti-Semitism and Holocaust. You can do whatever you want and defend all your actions. That's the part that people are getting upset with. That's the problem.
I don't know any right-minded person who believes that Jewish people weaponized the Holocaust for their own personal get out of jail free or whatever you called it.
I do. I have Jewish relatives. You're a fucking liar, Piers. You're a liar. You're a hypocrite. You're not to be trusted.
You don't know anyone that does that? That believes that?
I'm sure there are some people that do that, but it's such a ridiculous generalization. You know, the truth is that most Jewish people have lost relatives in the Holocaust. In fact, I want to play you two clips. One is where you talk about Adolf Hitler.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. So, you know, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool.
Do you regret saying that?
Saying a fact? No, that's absolutely true.
You think Hitler was very fucking cool?
Yes, I do.
One of them,
and I'm tired of pretending he's not.
Well,
to be honest,
this is the problem. You see, it's a bit like when you just say, "I'm a racist." You're a racist who thinks Hitler's cool, but you're not anti-Semitic. If you're a Jewish person watching this, what are they thinking? I'll tell you what they're thinking, because I've got a friend of mine called Danny Finkelstein, who, when he heard I was interviewing you, he's a Times journalist in the UK, very eminent journalist here, and author, who wrote a book about his own family's experiences at the hands of Hitler and Stalin, because he also told Tucker Carlson that you admire Stalin. But let's just take what Danny said here.
Hi Piers, it's Danny Finkelstein here. As you're interviewing Nick Fuentes, you might try suggesting to him that he reads my book, Hitler, Stalin, Mum and Dad. It's called Two Roads Home in the United States. Since he says he's on Team Hitler, you might like to ask him about the fact that Hitler arrested my mum, tried to starve my mum to death, did starve my grandmother to death, sent my great aunt to the gas chamber, my great uncle, my cousin. My grandmother on my father's side ended up being one out of 7 children, the only one that survived the war. So you might ask him whether he wouldn't rather be on Team Mum rather than Team Hitler. And as for celebrating Stalin's birthday, well, Stalin took my father, sent him to a state collective farm, sent my grandmother and to a state collective farm, sent my grandfather to the Gulag. You might try asking him why he doesn't celebrate Dad's birthday rather than Stalin's. It may all be a big joke to him, but he complains that he was 18 when someone tried to cancel him. Well, Stalin and Hitler arrested my mum and my dad when they were 10 years old. So perhaps he might like to reconsider his joke.
See, that's the reality of your jokes, although I haven't ascertained yet whether you are joking when you say that Hitler was very fucking cool. Are you joking, or do you actually think he was very fucking cool? The most genocidal monster of the last 150 years?
Yeah, the thing is, my generation, we're just done with the pearl clutching. You know,
Yeah, you might be, but then your
edgy-
generation hasn't gone through what Danny Finkelstein's family went through. So
Yeah.
maybe the pearl clutching has a way to go for families whose family members
Oh my
were
gosh!
murdered.
Yeah, we got all that. We, you know, me mom, like we're, you know, I don't even know who this person is. Why is this person talking to me? This old British guy is saying me mom got killed by Hitler,
Because
and
he
me
doesn't
dad
find
got
it
killed
funny
by.
when you say Hitler's very fucking
I don't
cool.
care.
He finds
I don't
I know you
care.
don't care. That's fine. You don't have to care. But he does care.
Does that guy care about America? Does that guy care about me and my country and my family? No.
He cares what you, a
that's the
prominent
problem.
conservative in America, has to say about Adolf Hitler. And what do you mean by Hitler is very fucking cool? Because I think he's very fucking a monster.
Okay. That's a clip. I think he's very fucking a monster. Do you hear yourself?
Yeah,
I mean,
do.
can we all grow up?
I do.
Can we all grow
He
up?
murdered
That is
12
just
million
childish.
people. He murdered 12 million
Okay.
people. What is very fucking cool about that? Tell me.
The edits, it's just cool. The uniforms, the parades, it's cool as a guy. You look at World War II and it's fascinating and it's interesting and it's compelling and it's cool. And, you know, we're just tired of saying these kinds of things. We want to talk like real people and give our honest opinions. And then we literally get an old Jewish guy from England who's going to say, oh, that's not very funny, mate. Me mom. And it's like, shut up. Like, you know, no one is in favor of genocide. So let's just get that out of the way. We're not in favor of a Holocaust or genocide.
Do you think if half
It's
your
80
family
years ago.
In fact, we're more anti-genocide than you. And I said this again, I'm going to repeat it. Piers Morgan's pro-genocide. Piers Morgan covered up the killings of Palestinians for years until it became politically and beneficial in the media for him to get an audience to start raising some eyebrows specifically at the Israeli government, leaving out the fact that the vast majority of the Israeli people believe that they're Amalek and they must be biblically annihilated. So this is the type of stuff that Piers Morgan's covered for over the years. And Nick's not playing this game. When you are pro-genocide, when you are pro-murder, when you are pro-war, you don't get to come tell someone with the controversial opinion that they're the baddie. You're the bad man. You're the evil one who cannot be accepted into polite society. Excuse me while I co-sign the bombing of an innocent Palestinian village. Hamas. That's his favorite thing to say. Like back in the real heyday, like the first year of the Gaza genocide, he would have people on who would be talking about the maimed children, the dead bodies, the Israeli or IDF soldiers wearing the lingerie of the home of the women that they killed, right? And he would make the argument to anyone who'd come on and talk about these things. He'd go, do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? Over and over and over again. And then he's kind of doing the same thing to Nick right now. He's saying, well, condemn Hitler, condemn Hitler, condemn Hitler. Well, forget condemning Hitler. You are Hitler, Piers. You are a Nazi. You're pro-genocide. And when you're a hypocrite in one respect, you don't get to come and tell us another thing. You don't get to go, okay, I'm pro-mass murder, mass death here, but I'm anti it there. Or I'll cover it up here and I'll raise it and make it an issue here. And you want to talk about minimizing the Holocaust, minimizing the death numbers. This is someone who in the modern day, in the modern context, has minimized the mass killing, the mass starvation, the execution of the Palestinians. So it's reached another level for me where I'm watching this and I understand it's literally going to be the same thing on repeat. He is just a hypocritical war pig. And that's his ethos. It's what he does. It's who he is. That's fine. My dad destroyed him 10 years ago. Fuentes is destroying him right now. It's great to see.
Half your family had been wiped out by very fucking cool Hitler. You'd still think he was very fucking cool. Or would you think that actually he was a despicable monster who murdered 12?
And I don't like Hitler. I actually think he's a despicable monster. But you see, from my perspective, because I'm anti-genocide, because I support the Palestinians, because I support the Ukrainian people who have been fed into the meat grinder by their own government, because I support ending these conflicts and ending these wars, I can make that position from a perspective of intellectual honesty. Piers Morgan cannot. Piers Morgan is a hypocrite in that respect, and that cannot be tolerated because you do not get to be the moral arbiter of truth when you are the biggest fucking liar on the planet, when you've covered up for a genocide. Genocide, 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 Gaza, 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 dead kids, dead kids, dead kids, bomb, 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 war, 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 death, death, death. That's what's going on in Piers Morgan's brain right now. But, you know, on the outside, oh, you think Hitler's cool? This man who murdered this guy's mother or grandmother, you think he's a cool guy? Well, Piers, apparently you think that the Israeli government is pretty cool and they kill innocent women and children and people's grandparents all the time. Why aren't you outraged about that?
Million people who targeted people because they were disabled or Jewish or Romani Gypsy or whatever it may be, and that he systematically destroyed people, incinerated them in gas chambers. Do you think that you would find it very fucking cool if your family had been through that? Or do you think you would find it very fucking disgusting? And perhaps moderate the number of times you laugh about it or want to joke about it or want to
We're laughing at it because it's hypocrisy, because you can't criticize something or someone for something that you're guilty of. And you're guilty and you're complicit in genocide. Like Nick Fuentes didn't have the SS uniform on and wasn't putting people on the trains or putting people in camps. You were acting as a Hasbara agent covering up the Palestinian genocide. Like he should have a little blue and white armband for the services that he provided to the state of Israel covering up the genocide of the Palestinians. But notice how he presents himself as the arbiter of truth. I mean, look, I'm anti-Hitler. I think Hitler's evil. I'm anti-Stalin. I think Stalin's evil. I think Nick's positions on those things, I call them into question. I don't like some of that stuff. I don't like a lot of that stuff. I don't like most of that stuff. But I can understand the perspective of kind of like Kanye West wearing the swastika or putting on the Klan hood. This is the thing that you cannot do. This is the thing you cannot say. This is the thing you cannot be a part of. But when it comes to war, when it comes to genocide, when it comes to the poison shot, you can be pro all of that, active in that, in the modern day, in the here and now, happening now, things that could actually have been stopped or been prevented if he was actually brave and called them out from day one. He's been complicit. He needs a blue and white armband, and he needs a yarmulke on his head.
Use someone like Danny Finkelstein, who's written incredibly powerful books about what happened to his extended family at the hands of the Nazis and your other hero, Stalin. See, my point.
Yeah, and a phenomenal point being made by Stephen B79 in the comments on X, on the chat on X. Meanwhile, men being kidnapped, sent to front lines of a war. Yeah, last show, I wanted to get to it. I didn't get to it. I had a dozen, maybe 15 clips, individual different clips of the Ukrainian Stasi, of the Ukrainian Nazis picking young men off the street, grabbing them, throwing them in vans, attacking them with dogs, beating them with objects, punching them in the liver, the kidney, making them drop, and then throwing them in the van. Then they get to the front line, they give them a gun, they run out there, get blown up by an FPV drone, and hey, it's cool because there's one less FPV drone. Piers Morgan, as far as I understand, is very pro-Ukraine. Very, very pro-Ukraine. So you're complicit in not just one modern genocide, but two modern genocides. But as long as you get curry, as long as he can get his bowl of curry, it's all right. The hypocrisy will not stand. We're not taking it anymore. And that's why Nick's like, yeah, I am what you're calling me. I am this. I am that. I don't care anymore. What are you? That's the question he should have been asking.
To you, Nick Fuentes, is that in parts of this interview, you try to come across as moderate, but every now and again, the mask slips. And it's slipped again here with what you say about Hitler. There's nothing very fucking cool about Hitler. We know that from history now. We know what he did. You've already conceded that he murdered at least 6 million Jews. So when you say he's very fucking cool, Jewish people watch this and go, this guy's disgusting. Why would he say this about someone who perpetrated such an evil? And what's the real answer? Why do you? Is it just for clicks? Is it for money? Is it just for fun? For shits and giggles?
I think it's
what
for
is
fun.
it? What motivates you
It's
to
also
say
to make the
something
ideological
like
point.
Hitler was very fucking cool?
It's for this. It's for all of this. And the lack of self-awareness is amazing. You're a boomer. You're a 60-year-old boomer. And we've spent maybe 3 minutes on you saying, he's a really fucking monster. He incinerated people. And I'm sitting here saying it's not that serious. It's not that deep. And
not that serious.
I'm getting at,
not that serious.
Do you want to say more about he's a monster?
You're not a kid yourself anymore. You're not a teenager.
I know.
Right? You're nearly 30, to be clear.
Yeah,
okay? You're a fully formed adult who has a brain, right? And at some stage, that brain has taken you off these
Is
rabbit
this an
warrens.
interview or is this a lecture? Can I respond to what you're saying?
I want you to explain why you think it's fine to say how fucking cool Hitler is.
It's fine because millions of people have been murdered in the modern day, especially over the past decade, and people like you cover up for it when you look at a historical event 80 or 100 years ago, and that's the thing that cannot be discussed. And if you even hold a position that's contrary to the secular religion, the secular truth, they'll throw you in jail in several countries. That's why. See, you see, Piers, it's a radical act of freedom and self-expression, which is not legal in the tyranny that you live under and are proud to live under in the UK and just in Europe in general. That's the position. And the position is, if you feel this way, if you're pro-rape of your own nation, hey, maybe I like this guy. Maybe this guy's bad. Maybe this guy's evil, whatever. I would call him bad and evil. Nick Fuentes, I don't think would, but that's a completely different debate. And maybe me and him will have that debate one day. But at the end of the day, this is set up from a false dichotomy. It's a false narrative of, I'm a good person. I'm a moral good person. I don't like bad people. You like bad people. You like Hitler. You're evil. You're bad. When in fact, no one loves more bad people than Piers Morgan. And the bad people that Piers Morgan loves, serves, and obeys are still alive and still active and are committing genocides and mass atrocities to this day. So on just multiple levels, on its face, this man is a hypocrite. And that's what I've taken away from this interview.
And to dismiss the very powerful 90 seconds from a British journalist who lost a lot of family members to the Nazis in such a callous, dismissive manner.
I don't think it's powerful. I think we've been hearing that our entire lives. Okay. The
Repost the
Schindler's
stream.
List. Let's just be
Repost the
honest. The
stream.
propaganda is over the top. We have been brought in America.
What about
and
the Schindler's
everywhere.
List?
Hey,
Tell me
hang on,
about
can
the
I
Schindler's
respond?
List. Well, tell me about the Schindler's List.
I'll tell you about it. We have been browbeaten as a people, as Americans, as Westerners for our entire lives. And you know what this has done? It has taken away any sense of pride, any sense of love for our own civilization. We have been made the villain in our own story. We have been made because, well, let's just be clear. It doesn't begin and end with Hitler is a monster. This has been the political narrative, which is why we have thrown open the borders. This is a political narrative, which is why we can't be a conservative society as a whole anymore, why we can't be proud of Europeans, why we can't be proud of being Christian, because they've told us, if you're too white and too proud and too Christian, it's going to lead to a Holocaust. And so my generation, our entire lives, has seen,
honestly,
it's true. And that's why people like me. That's why I'm popular, because this is bullshit.
Honestly,
yeah, it's a crock. We don't want to hear any more about me mom and me dad. That's a crock of shit.
No, listen. What you just said is a crock of shit. And you
it's
know
true.
it.
It's called the open society.
In your gut, you know it is. You weaponize this stuff.
You know.
You weaponize this stuff for money, but you know when you say something like what you just said.
I'm banned from banking. I'm banned from banking and credit cards. You know who you're talking to? I do it for money.
And by the way,
how much money you make? Your company's worth $100 million. Your company's worth $100 million. I was banned from Bank of America.
And you shouldn't
I'm
have
banned
been.
from processing credit cards.
And you shouldn't have been.
But I am. So don't tell me I'm doing it for money.
Well, ask me my opinion about that. I'll tell you shouldn't have been. Right? I don't agree with that. What happened to
Then
you?
don't say I'm doing it for money, because you know that full well, and you say it's a
How
grift.
much money? How much
if I
money
wanted
are
to be
you?
a grifter, I'd be like you,
How
and
much
I would
money
go
are,
and say,
how much money are you making?
I'm making a lot of money now.
Yeah.
Now that I'm the #1 live streamer in America, because people agree with me more than they agree with you. We're tired.
But he was saying the same thing when he was making nothing. And that's the key. And here's the thing. You can disagree with Fuentes. I disagree with Fuentes on a lot. The reason why I tune in and watch his show frequently is because I know that these are his honest opinions and this is what he actually believes, right? Because he said it to his own detriment. Everything Piers Morgan has ever said or has ever broadcasted, whether that's trying to take our guns here in America, whether that's being pro-genocide and covering up for the Israeli slaughter of Palestinian children and women and non-combatants, whether that's the pro-Ukraine garbage that I'm making an assumption, but I'm sure he spouts it. He's the type. He loves it. He probably loves little Zelensky. They get together and rub their little bellies together and stuff like that. Just a little assumption there. But Piers, you are the dishonest actor here. Like him or not, hate him or not, disagree with him or not, Nick Fuentes has been saying the same thing for a decade. You've been saying the same things for much longer, but it's very clear why you say them. It's for the power structure.
Tired of hearing about slavery and the Holocaust and Jim Crow. We're done hearing about that. You guys
I'm not done hearing about that.
Okay, well, your generation's on the way out, and Generation Z is coming up, and we're finished with that. We're ready to take our country back.
I've got three sons. I've got three sons, and they don't share your views about slavery and about the Holocaust. They can have decency and compassion and humanity about some of the worst things that have happened in the last 150 years or more. They can do that, and they can also have concerned views about issues like immigration and other issues. The two things are not mutually incompatible. You can have different views about different things. It's your lack of humanity and compassion for people about things like the Holocaust, about slavery. It's that people find so contemptible. And I don't understand why you need to do that. I just ask you, is your motivation financial? Is your motivation for fun? What is the motivation to saying these outlandish?
His motivation is that they want to make it illegal to say stuff like this. And if you don't exercise your right to say stuff like this, you lose your right to it, as we've seen in the EU, as we've seen in Britain. And, Piers, he conceded the point and he clutched his pearls kind of to signal that he's the uncensored guy, that he's anti-censorship and all that. He says, I think it's horrible what's going on in the UK. I don't agree with it at all. I think it's atrocious and abominable that the people are being frog marched to prison cells because of things that they've said. Okay, well, you're backing up that regime pretty good here, buddy. Like that seems to be the thing that you're doing right here. You're a dishonest actor.
Things which you don't need to say, and which I suspect, I don't know, I suspect a lot of it is performative. So what is the motivation?
I'm an iconoclast. The Holocaust is not my religion, and it is treated like a religion. It is treated like a religion with dogma, with blasphemy laws, and that secular religion says, and you say that's a crock of shit. It's intentional. It's called The Open Society by Karl Popper. It's by these architects of the liberal order after World War II. They got together and they said, how can we make sure that Hitler never happens? How can we make sure that totalitarianism never happens again? And they came up with the consensus, which is that we need to take down nations, religions, fathers, the authoritarian personality. We need to be empathetic and altruistic. We need to be diverse and pluralistic. And that experiment isn't working. And I'll tell you the truth. Right now, and you can laugh at this, you can scoff at this, our people are being genocided in our country. 50% of the live births in the United Kingdom and in the United States are non-white. In 100 years, my ancestors, your kids who are so empathetic and compassionate, they're going to be a minority. They're going to be a minority in maybe a Muslim country, an Indian country, an Hispanic country. And these Jewish people that are 100 years old talking about my grandparents and the Holocaust, they don't care about that. Actually, they like to see it. At the SPLC, they're literally counting down the days until whites are a minority in America. So forgive me if I don't believe them when they talk about compassion. There's a genocide going on right now. It's not against the Jews.
How many Christians are there?
Gaza, it's against whites.
How many Christians are there in the world? Like me,
1 point some billion,
yeah,
2 billion.
How many Jews are
there? 15 million.
Okay. So with a straight face, you're going to tell me the world is being overrun by the Jewry, by 15 million people, when there are over
Well, who are all the billionaires? Like, this is so dishonest. I mean, I almost feel like I don't even have to make these points. I know the people in the audience are intelligent. And Fuentes made this very clear. When he's criticizing Jewish power, he's not criticizing the individual Jewish person. He's talking about world Jewry. He's talking about, hey, AIPAC, they give vast majority of people in power in our country, over 90% of our politicians, 95% of them, I'll take AIPAC money, right? Israel has a powerful lobby in every single country. Every single Western country contributes heavily to the defense and protection of Israel. And countries like Germany and other countries in Europe, dozens of countries have speech laws protecting Jewish people or Israeli people. And it's on its face. I'm repeating myself. We'll just watch more of it. He's a liar.
Billion Christians. There is a genocide of Christians like poor old Nick Fuentes going on at the hands of these 15 million Jews. Really?
See, this attitude is why you're losing. When you say,
who am I losing to?
White people,
who am I losing to?
White people.
Who am I losing to?
You're seeing it. Mass migration. You're losing to me. We are losing as a civilization of mass migration. And here's the difference. In Israel, they have my politics. In Israel,
In Israel, they openly talk about, hey, we got to keep the demographics up. We got to bring more Jewish people in here because we can't have those Arabs in charge. We can't have a majority Arab country. So why is the state of Israel be an ethno state, but why is nowhere else be an ethno state? It's that hypocrisy question again. We see it over and over and over again. I probably said that word 100 times during this live reaction.
They want to maintain a Jewish majority. If they had it their way, it would only be Jewish people. They're fighting like hell so that Jewish people can have as much territory, a Jewish state. They can be proudly Jewish in their own land. Whereas in America, we are being besieged by 10 million illegal immigrants in 4 years. And then whites and Christians are going to be the minority. And that's true in Canada, Australia, all the countries in Europe. So you could say there's 2 billion people, but what's the proportionality? What is the percentage of people being born that are white? Where's the arrow pointing? Where are we going to be in 50 years? In 50 years, there might be an Israel. In 50 years, there isn't going to be a white Christendom.
You don't believe people should get married, right?
I think people should get married. I'm a Christian.
But you're basically anti-marriage, really. You've talked about this. You've talked about.
Are we done talking about white genocide?
Well, no, I'm coming to the same part because you seem very resistant to the idea of marriage. You've never got married. You've talked very scathingly about henpecked husbands. Just take a look.
That's true.
Guys get to a certain age and they're like, you know what? Women suck. Like they're talking too much. They're not hot anymore. Like you're fat, you're chubby, you're not as hot as you think you are. You fucking talk too much. You're a bitch.
So we'll obviously get to the brazen misogyny part of that a little later. But I'm just
all right. I like women. I think women are better than me. I think women are very attractive. I think that they're very smart, that they're very cool. Now, that being said, Piers Morgan's wife goes on a 6-week marriage sabbatical so that she can have fun and play around with other guys. Let's think about that for a second. So let's think about the framing and the perspective that Piers Morgan himself is coming from for this discussion. And, he talks about his 3 children. I wonder if those are his wife's boyfriend's children. Maybe that's the case. Maybe a paternity test needs to be issued. Maybe we should look into that. Maybe Nick should have that conversation with Piers after the show. I hope they did.
Curious. On the one hand, there's this terrible genocide going on of white people. On the other hand, you want people effectively to stop going near women because they all turn out to be so ghastly. So they shouldn't presumably procreate. So how does that work?
I'm a lot more feminist than Fuentes.
I mean, aren't you with your rhetoric actively encouraging men not to associate with these ghastly women, therefore not have any more children? Therefore, you are contributing, Nick Fuentes, to the diminishing white population. I'm confused.
I tell my followers to get married all the time. I tell them that it's best for everybody to get married. And I think that's the only way that you can have sex. I think that's the only licit way as a Catholic, as to have sex is within marriage.
Why don't you get married?
I'll get married later. It's been difficult for me because people are shooting at me at my house. I don't know that I don't want to have kids and a wife. My wife would be screaming about that. Me, I have to be able to take risks and be able to say these things. It's difficult to bring a family into a life that's like that. But for my followers, I tell them to get married. But what's happening with women?
You literally just told your followers, well, hang on. In that clip, you literally told followers, women, they get old, they get fat, they get ugly, they get very annoying. So where's the incentive to get married to women? There isn't one. You're actively telling them the opposite.
You're extrapolating a lot. We can complain.
Just quoting you back yourself again.
All right, this is an excellent opportunity to take a break. We're just going to take a little break here, and we're going to focus on something very interesting right now, something very cool, Primal Core. Now, I don't know if I've talked to you about Primal Core before, but I got a plug to do the show. We've come out with a very cool product line. Everyone knows how effective ashwagandha is. Everyone knows how powerful it is for reducing cortisol and raising testosterone and free testosterone. I've been involved for the past decade in the formulation of dozens and dozens of products. And in that process of becoming informed on supplementation and supplement formulation and working with the big manufacturers and big producers, a lot of the things that I've put into blends over the years have kind of been a male multi-mineral. And it's been a few things here and there, depending on price, depending on cost. People wanted to put different things in formulas. I wanted to put more. They wanted to put less. it is what it is. I am so proud of this core minerals stack that we've come up with, this elemental drive formula from primalcore.com, goprimalcore.com. Excuse me. You can use 25% off with code CORE25. It's got zinc, it's got boron, it's got selenium, it's got magnesium, it's got copper, and it's got vitamin D3. Now, what do these things do for you? They give you the hormonal fuel to make the hormone. They increase luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. The signal sent from your pituitary, your HPA, down to your gonads to make the testosterone. And then boron raises your free testosterone level even higher. I don't want to give numbers. I don't want to give a statistic that may be incorrect. You can look at the studies in aggregate. All these ingredients, they raise testosterone by about 5 to 10%. Zinc itself, if you're deficient in zinc, and most people are, the studies show zinc supplementation can raise testosterone levels by up to 90%. And price you're going to get this blend, especially at discount, I think you're paying $30 for it. This is the highest quality male multi-mineral on the market. You're not going to find a better blend anywhere else. I've been taking this daily. I've really been enjoying the benefits of it. I'll just leave it at that. This is really an incredible formula. And look, I plug products on InfoWars because they're great. I've developed some of them. I plug products on this show because, hey, I don't want to be the guy switching on the controls on the computer. I don't want to be the guy having to mess with the lights and mess with the cameras before the show. I don't want to be the guy that's always rushing and always trying to bring this to you fully produced. I need help. We need help. Me and Tim need your help in order to grow the show, get better guests, get a higher quality studio, and go forward. And in the future, we're really able to have that full 360 win with our audience. And how you can engage with that 360 win is by going to goprimalcore.com and by checking out Elemental Drive. Now, you can take Elemental Drive in concert with ashwagandha, and boy, am I telling you, you're going to experience some real benefits. Let me tell you. Now, what is ashwagandha? Everyone knows about it, but they mostly know about it because it's slightly GABAergic and it reduces stress and anxiety in people. Now, why does it do that? You have these neurons in your brain, and they produce something called CRH. It's corticotropin releasing hormone. And that goes down from your pituitary into your adrenals, where it's then converted into ACH, adrenal corticotropin hormone, and that is the fuel for cortisol. Now, a lot of people don't know this. Steroidogenesis, cortisol is actually a steroid hormone, and that makes sense. You go to a doctor, you get a cortisone shot for some sort of inflammation, if your knee's messed up or something, if you're old. There are two different kinds of steroids. There's anabolic steroids and there's catabolic steroids, and testosterone is the king of anabolic steroids, and the king of catabolic steroids is cortisol. If you want to change the balance and you want to tilt it towards being higher testosterone and lower cortisol, you can take ashwagandha, and you can especially take ashwagandha in concert with Elemental Drive. And we're doing some tests right now. We're doing some studies on people. We're doing some anecdotal reports. We're going to have more in the future, especially coming into the new year. This is a real game changer. This is like the number one thing that I've been able to try, that Tim's been able to try, that our friends have been able to try, and really in the research that's known to raise testosterone, free testosterone, and lower cortisol. Now, why is that important? Especially if you're trying to get into shape or get back into shape. A universal physical human phenomenon is when you start working out really hard, stress increases, stress level goes up, and you notice, hey, like, why am I breaking down? I'm pushing really hard. I'm eating right. I'm doing all the right things. Why is this not working for me? Well, it's very simple. When your stress levels goes up, the cortisol goes up. And where does that lead? Lower testosterone, because the steroidogenesis gets tilted towards the production of cortisol instead of the production of testosterone. What we have right here with this formula, with Elemental Drive and with Ultimate Ashwagandha, KSM 66, the most studied version at the highest tested dose you can get, folks, this is everything. This is really helping the show, and we've had a lot of support. We've had a lot of people buy already. We're already getting some reviews in. We really appreciate those reviews. We want more reviews in all the time. Buy these products if you want to improve your life, improve your exercise, improve your physical capability, improve your stress, and if you want to support the show. I just want to do a really quick plug, because if I don't plug, then, we're going to have a hard time here. And we want to do a better show. We want to do a more produced show. We want to do more shows, and buying the products at Go Primal Core makes that possible. And you can use that code CORE25 to get 25% off. These products are already discounted. You're getting a crazy deal on this. It's super cool. It's super fresh. It's what all the cool kids are doing, is taking this stuff. Trust me, I'm a cool kid and I'm taking it. And look how sexy that is. Look at that metallic right there. look at the ingredient facts on the site. We'll pull up the site in a second after the Piers Morgan interview. You're going to want to get this stuff. You're going to want to try it. You're going to want to share it with your friends. It makes a great Christmas gift for a young man. Just let me tell you, benefits under the hood. We're not going to get fully into it. This stuff rocks. I really, really love it. And it's the support of our viewers checking out products at goprimalcore.com that makes the show possible. So please, when you're available, you don't even have to buy anything. Just go to the site, check out the deals, compare at price. I guarantee, especially for Elemental Drive, you will not find a comparable formula on the market that does the things that you want it to do in the ways you want it to happen. So let me just get into it a little bit more. It matters a lot the elemental form that these minerals are in. And we have all these minerals in the most highly absorbable, best ratio that you can get. Now, why is that important? So a lot of people, it's become a craze to take zinc, right? A lot of people say, oh, zinc, bigger loads, more testosterone. That's what I want. That's what's going to make my wife happy in the bedroom, right? Well, that's true, but a lot of people don't know that zinc and copper are both absorbed in the same way in the gut. And if you supplement, especially heavily or with high quality zinc, like which is found in this formula, your copper levels will be depleted. And ultimately, that's going to lead to a net negative and not net positive. We balance that out by having the correct form of copper in the correct ratio to the zinc, balanced out with the vitamin D3, with the selenium, with the magnesium. It's all there. It's all together. It's designed to support total enzymatic processes throughout the body. It's designed to support sclerogenesis. It's what you want. Look, get Elemental Drive for Christmas, folks. Order it and use code CORE25 to get 25% off. Let's get back to the interview.
No, but you're extrapolating and saying, well, you say women are annoying, so therefore, what's the incentive? We have to do it in spite of the fact that they are annoying. We have to do it in spite of the fact that they talk too much. We can get them to lose weight. We can put them on peptides. We can get them to the promised land, but it's going to be
Do you think this view of women may be why none of them want to go near you?
Oh, you should see my DMs. It is quite the opposite. They're called the Groybettes, and I'm actually batting them away. Granted, not all of them are attractive. Some of them are attractive.
Are you actually? Look, just to clear up one of the many theories about you, I've no idea what the answer is, and you haven't got to answer. But are you actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay?
No. But I will say that women are very difficult to be around.
Okay.
So there's that.
And do you think they should have the right to vote?
I disagree.
I do not. No, absolutely not.
I disagree.
They should stay at home?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
See, basically, you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you? For a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm the boomer. I know I'm the boomer here, but actually, you're a 27-year-old dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women.
I am.
Yes, this is my first watching interview.
All women grow old. They all get fat. Says the guy. Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy who's never got laid.
Well, he's Catholic, right? He's Catholic. You're not supposed to do that until you get married. Like that's not a own it. In fact, like so Piers Morgan's wife gets railed by other dudes, and then he's like, "So you've never gotten laid? My wife gets laid all the time. I don't even have to be there for her to get laid." Like, come on.
Wow. That's the thing, though. You boomers, it's always
think you're an expert in women,
free love.
Given you've never got laid?
Yeah, we are going back to the Stone Age. You're absolutely right. This, you're talking about empathy, and your kids are empathetic, and they would never laugh at a joke about the Holocaust, and you're a misogynist. You're a simp yourself. You're totally henpecked. That's the problem. So we are going back to the way
Let me play another clip of yours about women.
A lot of women want to be raped. And when I say raped, I mean like, that sounds bad when I say it like that. But there's like a lot of women that really want a guy to beat the shit out of them. But also they have to pretend, but part of it is they have to pretend like they don't.
You think women want to be raped, do you?
That's what the studies show, Piers. That is what the statistics say.
But that's what you believe,
They have fantasies. They have fantasies about it. I don't think that they want to actually get raped, but there's a study out there. Get ready for this. It says 62% of women have rape fantasies. And if you read anything that they're reading, if you watched what they're watching, what do you think 50 Shades of Grey is about? What do you think Twilight is about? I mean, that's just true.
You think women want to have the shit beaten out of them, as you said?
Yeah, and it's very disturbing, but it's true.
Do you think your views on women might change if you actually ever had a relationship with one or had sex and actually had a proper relationship?
Hey, Will.
I mean, people say the reason you're so angry about women is you're basically an
I'm going to get
incel.
off. I may be live past midnight. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not angry about it.
You sound very angry. You sound very, very angry about women. I'm
passionate. It's an issue
You're
I'm
not
passionate
passionate.
about.
You're sounding very bitter about women, as if women have done a terrible disservice to you. But when you don't have relationships, you don't have sex. When
Okay,
are they
sorry.
doing these terrible things to you that's made you so hateful towards women? I'm really curious.
We got a lot of people.
Was that? I don't think that was a hateful clip. I think I was laughing. I said they want men to beat the shit out of them, and that's just true. I mean, when you look at the state of modern women, all they do is lay in their bed, doom scroll. They're chilling out. They're getting a little fat. It is what it is. I don't know what the average weight is, but they're getting a little heavy. And any guy that is playing the field these days will tell you that. I mean, and I know
The average American woman weighs 180 pounds.
a lot of the Chads. I am an incel. I'm friends with a lot of Chads like Bradley Martin, Clavicular. They agree with me. You know, there's sort of like this alliance between the guys that don't have sex and the guys that get the most sex. We know what women are about. It's the guys in the middle. Guys like you in the middle. It's the beta male orbiters that say, she's amazing. You're a misogynistic pig. Because I don't know what that is. I guess
Well, come on. Let me explain to you what I think it is. I think when a 27-year-old guy who's never got laid, never had a meaningful relationship with a woman, says that women shouldn't be allowed to vote, they should stay at home, that all they do is fantasize about being raped and being beaten up. That's what they want. That they're annoying, that they get fat, that they get ugly. That's a misogynist. Now, you may.
Key point from Drew Juice 4249. I think Piers is secretly gay and in love with Fuentes. I think I think you're spot on there. And trying to find out if he's single. Oh yeah, a lot of that's going on.
May not understand it because your knowledge of women is so incredibly tiny, but actually you are the embodiment of a misogynist. It couldn't be clearer. And if I was in a way, you have to.
He was about to say, no, it's not okay. And then he realized it's not ideologically consistent with how he's represented himself.
Deep-rooted misogyny of some of the actual boomers I know. Yet here you are, 27 years old. And most of the current studies show that a lot of men are really disenfranchised from society, no longer have physical relationships with women if they've ever had them, never associate with women, and build up instinctively misogynist views about women. And I fear you're in that position. You're just a bit of a lonely guy who wants to get laid and can't for whatever reason. And it's made you bitter about women. And I don't know where that's come from, but it's fascinating.
No. See, here's the thing. First of all, you're very caught up in the labels. It's always, you're a racist, you're a misogynist.
You said you were a racist.
Mean nothing to me. Oh,
You gave yourself.
Can I respond?
You gave yourself the label.
What is this?
You said, I am a racist. I didn't give you the label.
Okay.
You said, Nick Fuentes, I am a racist.
Yeah, he really does love those labels. That's how he's classically trained. That's his speech style. That's his fighting style. That's what he does.
Calm down. Calm down.
Did you or didn't you?
It's okay.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so
here's
I didn't give you the label.
You know, if Piers Morgan let Nick Fuentes talk as much as he lets other men sleep with his wife, we'd have a lot more of an entertaining show to watch. But there's a lot of interrupting going on.
You did.
Why are you yelling at me?
Because you're trying to infer
screaming at
something that didn't happen. You said, I gave you the label of being a racist. No, you did. You said, I'm a racist. You gave yourself the label.
You're going to have to tone it down a little, all right? You're going to have to bring it down a notch and relax. This is just an interview, okay? Please calm down. All I said is you're hung up. I didn't say you gave me that. Maybe I did.
You did.
But here's what I mean. What I mean is you're just hung up on proving you're a misogynist. Okay, you're a racist. Okay, you denied the Holocaust. And I'm not about the labels,
man. You didn't deny
I'm
the
just
Holocaust.
past that.
As I said to you, look, Nick, I just wanted to go over the stuff that everyone uses out there about you and get you to respond. And we are getting, I think, a long way in this interview.
Okay.
Right? You didn't deny the Holocaust. You accepted there's been a Holocaust of at least 6 million Jews.
I'm a maximalist. I'm a Holocaust.
That is significant.
I think it's more.
You did admit you're a racist, and you have spelled out a thought process about women, which is the purest definition of misogyny that I've ever seen. And you said you're not gay. So we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. Well,
what are my thoughts so far? I've commentated a lot over the course of this broadcast. I know people are joining now, and we still have a lot more to go. And we're going to do a call-in show after this for at least, 30, 45 minutes. I'm going to have to be rapid fire about calls. I don't want to be late or live too late tonight. But overall, Piers Morgan has represented himself as a hypocrite. Piers Morgan is someone who supports war crimes, who supports genocide, who supports the vaccine, who supports abortion. But he comes at Nick when he in fact is a killer in what he supports and the ideology that he backs. And Nick is someone who holds controversial positions and says controversial things. And hey, has called himself a racist here on the show. But what's worse? Is it worse to be racist and cross the street if you see a black person, or is it worse to the killing of hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza? Is it worse to co-sign the war in Ukraine? Is it worse to co-sign the vaccine? Is it worse to co-sign censorship? All of these things. That's my argument. Piers Morgan is just a giant hypocrite. And it's like Nick Fuentes is saying so well here. He relies on the label, because if Piers Morgan didn't have the label, if he had to go through and discuss these ideas without the label, without the zoomed in study, he wouldn't be able to do it, because he actually doesn't have a worldview. His worldview is based on what is societally permissible. He follows the letter of the law instead of the letter of the human heart. Nick Fuentes, as flawed as he is, it's his own views, it's his own heart.
Look, and I own the labels, okay? But I just don't
It goes
care
downhill,
that much about that.
in what way? Should I take calls, or should I keep watching?
I feel like the whole
I'm not saying
this is like a weird.
I'm not saying you have to care, Nick. You don't have to care about any of it. I promise you. Right? That's not why I got you on the show. I wanted to give you a fair crack, which I think I have. We've gone over a lot of stuff. We've got a bit more to go on. I genuinely don't think I've ambushed you with anything you couldn't have been expecting.
No.
I don't think I've been overtly hostile. In fact, when you've asked me to calm down, I've calmed down. I don't want to have a hostile, angry shout.
All right. I think that's enough for today. I think that's enough of the interview for today. New Groper told me it goes downhill. Does it go downhill in terms of crashing out? Like rage? Fuentes on Candace Owens, on Trump. I'm looking at the timestamps here. Yeah, we don't have to litigate that. We don't have to litigate all that stuff. We don't have to go over it. That's fine. And let's get back into the call-in portion of the show. I'm going to go ahead and launch that right now, so just give me a little second. I'm about to post the number. I'll post it in the X comments. I'll also cut to a little cutaway where you can call in. Now, keep in mind, a maximum of 3 people can be on the line at the same time, and probably going to do about 4 or 5, maybe 6 calls tonight. I'm going to try to keep them at 10 minutes each. Okay, so we stay under an hour, so I'm able to log off here at 12:30, and I'm able to actually go to bed at a reasonable time and walk my dog and talk to my friend who's over here right now. But really quick, I want to present this again. I want you to go to goprimalcore.com, and I want you to check out this formula. And I want you to see if there's any other supplement on the market at this price point that does this level of benefit for you. I guarantee you're not going to be able to find it. And at this price point, for what's readily available, all the minerals at the key ratios and the most absorbable forms, the most absorbable compounds, this is what you want. And subscribe and save 30%, get it for $27. You can use the code, get even more of a discount. There's no reason not to get it. Boosts free testosterone, enhances mental clarity, reduces fatigue and irritability, supports thyroid metabolism for steady, clean energy. A lot of things people don't know when they consider nootropics. These minerals are nootropic, especially magnesium, especially zinc, especially things like selenium. They really boost your thinking capacity and brain power. You're going to want to go to goprimalcore.com. You're going to want to go there right now. But we're going to get back into the show. I'm launching the call-in portion of the show. I'm going to go ahead and take us live there now. So stay with me, guys. Give me 1 second. I'm going to sing a song while we load this. I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murdering scum running giant death factories, keeping babies alive and selling their body parts. What more do you know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run around screaming, "We love Satan. We want to eat babies." I have them on video. Hillary's a creepy, weird, sick stuff, man. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy, weirdo woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. What
You
the
are connected
hell?
as the host.
The woman number
Welcome,
one is
host.
ugly.
You are now in the host room and
Imagine
can
how
manage your
bad
callers from
she
the call-in
smells, man.
studio web interface.
I'm told her and Obama just stink. Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. They're gonna stab your daughter at the mall. Oh, oh, oh. They're gonna stab your wife, your son. Oh, they're gonna stab him with the butcher knife. And then the police chief is gonna say, "We love our Somalis. We love our Muslims. Oh, they so good. Oh, they so sweet." All right. I've just posted it in the X comments. You can go and join now. First 3 calls on the board. We're going to take New Groper first. He's a frequent caller in on the show. He's really my favorite caller, to be honest. Really love talking to New Groper. Waiting for him to join, waiting for others to join. It's currently available, guys. So call in. I just posted the number in the DMs, or not the DMs. I just posted the number in the chat. And for the viewing audience, the number is 512-675-7144. 512-675-7144. That's 512-675-7144. Join the show now. Get your opinion heard. I want to hear what you have to say on this. Also, just what's on your mind, the political consciousness today. I can't wait to hear from you. I can't wait to get into all of it. We're waiting for New Groper to join. We're going to have others join as well. I'll check the DMs really quick. Thank you for being here with me tonight. I really appreciate all the love and support. We appreciate all the love and support for Primal Core. It helps keep the show online, helps us make the show better. Thank you. Call into the show now. We got a caller on the board. You're live. Hello?
Man, what's going on?
Hey, it's New Groper, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, you got me.
What were your thoughts on that, man?
I don't know, man. My favorite part was the part was like, me mom was turned into a soap bar by Hitler and Stalin.
Right. Right.
It gets so old. Gets so old.
Yeah,
honestly,
everyone's entire family died, and then they talk about it, and that's the only thing they talk about, and they cannot be criticized. And then these are the same people that back the genocidal regime that's killed hundreds of thousands of Palestinians.
yeah, everybody thinks Piers Morgan is smart. I think he's actually retarded because he doesn't know what sarcasm is.
Yeah.
I mean, when Nick said it was like, oh, it could be more, like he didn't pick up on the fact that he was trolling him.
No, he is real dumb.
So retarded.
Well, what did you think of the way that Fuentes handled himself? Because at a first glance, for me, I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't seen it before. I'd seen a couple of clips, and I made a tweet, and I said you have to yell at Piers, and it kind of went viral. And I had a clip of Alex on the show, kind of greatest compilation, greatest hits of him roasting Piers Morgan. But after watching that, I don't think he could have handled it any better.
Oh yeah, no. Everything that Nick said was 100% correct. And what Piers did was he did what he does best. He's a scumbag.
Yes.
And it's like, hey, nobody takes advantage of the Holocaust for emotional manipulation. 30 seconds later, plays a video, inserts some weird retard guy from England who wants to tell us about how his entire family was slaughtered in every way imaginable by every oppressive regime in World War II. Like, bro.
Right.
Like you guys are the same people who tell us not to worry about the election in 2020 because it's been too long.
Yeah.
It's like I have no interest in what is these Jews. I don't have any interest in what these Jews have to say because they know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, Piers Morgan certainly knows what he's doing. Here's my thing. I don't like the hypocrisy. The thing that stands out to me is that Piers Morgan, he's advocated for the war in Ukraine. He's advocated for the vaccine, even though now he's questioning it, whatever. He did it in the past. People took the shot. People died. He advocated for the war in Gaza. He advocated for our gun rights in America as a foreign invader, as a foreign agent. He tried to get our gun rights taken a decade ago. And suddenly he's the arbiter of what's good and what's bad, and he gets to decide. I don't like the attitude. And I really don't like him having a show called Uncensored when all he did was interrupt Nick.
Right. Well, what's really interesting, and I don't know if you've seen Nick's little dive that he did last night on Who's Who with Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan's apparently one of his co-owners of his show is Rupert Murdoch.
No way.
Which is Benjamin Netanyahu's, Benjamin Netanyahu's best friend. And that piece that came out on Nick about the fake subscribers and fake,
the
fake
bots,
engagement that came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucker was made. That group, one on the board of it, is Rupert Murdoch. It was like a full-blood Matrix attack, and it's also hilarious that it's based out of apparently this intelligence apparatus for Rutgers University, and it's actually a hotbed for the CIA. It's where they ran part of the studies for MKUltra.
Oh yeah, no, I'm aware of that.
Yeah. It's like full-blown Matrix attack. They thought they were going to hit him with a 1-2 right here, and Nick just was like, no, it didn't work.
Yeah,
and exposed it all live on air, and it's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, I mean, he did a really good job of baiting out the boomer, and that's what I like to see. I like to see these boomers held to account because they act like they are morally superior when they're the people that destroyed the entire planet, and now we all have to swim through their wake, and the mass migration that they allowed and the degradation of rights that they allowed and the fall of the West that they allowed. It's all their fault, but we get told, oh no, we're bad because we're angry about things. And that to me is the story of the interview, right? Like Nick is an angry young man, and rightfully so. Our country's been destroyed. Our country's been taken over, right? And we're prioritizing foreigners over our own native people. And I think that this is a very clear statement to make. I think that's the damn truth. And I don't think that can be ignored, especially under the Biden administration with the 10, 20 plus million people that came over here. I think Nick's right to be upset. And, Piers Morgan should be angry too about his country, but he likes it. And, he says, as long as he gets curry, it's okay. You've seen that, right?
Yeah, no, he's a cuck, and cucks like to be cuckolded. It's a sick pleasure thing for him. That's why he lets his life run out on him.
6 weeks sabbatical in the marriage. Yes.
Yeah,
How does that work?
Don't tell me you're a cuck without saying you're a cuck. Like,
very interesting.
Everybody gives Kanye a hard time for saying he's a cuck, but at least Kanye admitted it.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous because, and it's all a joke. And like Nick said last night, you don't take these types of interviews seriously because they don't, and you treat them with the same contempt that they treat you. And I think that rings true. It's just kind of, I don't know, man. It's just another one. I've seen that. It was like the same kind of thing that Candace did. It's like, let me play this clip out of context from 15 years ago. What are your thoughts on this? Well, I believe he just said it.
Well, that's the playbook. That's what they try to use to take you down. They attach you to a label, and then they expect everyone to be trained to kind of like that. That's the sick'em word to attack you, right? But for the young people, like, we're just tired of it, man, because we see the rape, we see the murder, we see the genocides that get committed, and then they say, oh, no, you say mean word, you like mean person, you're a bad guy. And it's literally, Piers Morgan should do the show with the blue and white armband sitting on top of a mountain of skulls. I think that would be fair.
Dude, yeah, he expected Nick to kind of be timid and, be offended by being called all these things. And it's like, yeah, and like when he called, when Piers called out Nick saying he was racist.
Right.
It was the exact same method that Candace did.
Yeah, it's the playbook.
And frankly, it's an IQ game. People with a low IQ don't understand what he's actually saying. And so they slap him with a label also because it fits their agenda. But like, I literally think Piers Morgan probably has an IQ around 90. And it shows. And if you can't understand sarcasm, like how are you supposed to be a professional podcaster with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of value into your show if you do not understand basic human communication?
Well, I mean, that's what they want. They pick the dumbest people and they elevate them and they put them in the highest positions of power. I mean, that's why Piers Morgan's been successful throughout his career, is because he is in fact that stupid, and that's what gets you ahead.
Yeah. Well, the gig's up. You know, we all know what's going on. We know about Jewish power. We know about everything that's going on. We know that the feminism has destroyed America and the entire planet. There's no getting around none of this anymore. And it's like, you can pearl clutch, you can call us names, you can do whatever. We don't care.
Right.
At the end of the day, we know, like, you're operating in bad faith.
Right.
And if you do that, well, it is what it is.
I agree.
Why, and it's like, that report that came out on Nick's engagement, they're like, well, why his account, they're all bots from India and Russia and Nigeria. It's like, bro, do you think there are computers in Nigeria like that enough to run 1 million+ bot farm accounts? No. It's like, and they said, they're like, oh, hey, these accounts are fake because they don't have real names. We don't have email addresses or anything to find anybody. It's like, yeah, because you people will literally dox us, call our places of employment, get us fired, and try to ruin our lives, because that's like, it's a war. It's an informational war. It's like, of course we would be anonymous.
Right.
It's just absurd. It's on its face. It's absurd. And it's like we're talking about the other night, is spook central. Like, Piers Morgan is a spook. I have no doubt he's an asset.
Of course.
But,
of course.
And it's like, and most of these guys are. And that's the thing. It's the same people doing the same crap every single time. And it's just to the point now to where things have broken. Like, containment is broken. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle. Things will never go back to the way they were. Americans will not say they love Jesus and fly the Israel flag around anymore. Like, it's over. The party's done, and they just they can't come to terms with that. And that's why I think it's really dangerous, because now they realize. I think they're realizing that these institutional attacks on him aren't working. I'm afraid they're going to try to do something physical.
Yeah.
So that's my next concern with it.
No, I agree.
Put him in a bunker, man.
He needs to live in a bunker. He needs to have the highest quality security he can afford. He does make good money now, even if it is Bitcoin, even if it is hard for him to get access to. He needs to have a good security team. He needs to, honestly, like, if you still live near or close to family, I would probably separate or try to go somewhere safer, a low crime impact area where you could really build that bunker around yourself. Because if you are the figurehead for this new movement of people just saying, yeah, we're done with your hypocrisy, they will try to kill you. Right. So, we see it. We see the persecution he's already undergone, but it's like you say, he's broken containment and the genie's out of the bottle. Just in closing here, give him a letter grade and then give him a score out of 10. How do you think he did? And where do you want to see more of this? Do you want to see him go on with another kind of host like this? Would you like to see him maybe go toe-to-toe with like a Megyn Kelly, maybe go toe-to-toe with like a Hannity, someone like that?
I'll say this for Megyn Kelly. I have no interest in watching any conservative e-girl.
Right.
I'm not interested. And I'm a man. I'm tired of everything being feminized. I think that he did a really good job. I think that, with all things considering, I mean, at first he got a little thrown off about, his dad being doxxed, because, Piers Morgan tried to literally, said his dad's full name and said he was a racist.
That's crazy.
And
yeah, that was outrageous.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's like Nick's dad is sick, and they're like trying to make ends meet to pay for cancer treatments.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, hey, let's go ahead and dox him, even though he's got nothing to do with it.
Right.
It's different if it's, if you volunteer to get in the space. That's a risk that you take when you get on the microphone.
Yes.
But for somebody who's not in politics to be held accountable because their offspring said something, it's bad.
Well, he's not a public figure.
And I think that threw Nick off at the beginning.
Yeah, he's not a public figure. I agree. It definitely did probably throw him off a little bit at the beginning. Like, it would throw anybody off, right? And like, that just goes to show how vicious of a person Piers Morgan really is. And he wants to act like he's neutral, like he's this moderate guy. Like, hey, like, maybe I'm on your side, maybe I'm not. Man, he's a vicious demon, and he supports war crimes, and that's what I want to keep saying. And I think it's key that we keep talking about Gaza in context, because all these people supported the bombing and the mass death and the mass killing of hundreds of thousands of people. And then they want to come on a show. They want to call it uncensored when they tried to stop people talking about it. And then they want to henpeck and pearl clutch over really minutia, microscopic sins or offenses compared to what they're guilty of. Right? Like, that's what bothers me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, the era of pearl clutching and political correctness is over, and you're going to see people are going to say whatever they want, whenever and however they want, and that's why really it embodies the American value of the First Amendment. Like, it really does, because when you tell me I can't say this or that, you're trying to restrict my speech, and you don't have the authority to do that.
Right.
And it's like all these people were, these words, like I heard one person say, like, people say, oh, like I said, was talking to somebody a while ago. I was like, oh, that's retarded. And they were like, that's bad. You don't say the R word. I was like, no, that's retarded.
Right.
Like you are retarded.
Right.
And it's like, it's just a pearl clutching. So, I mean, it's over. They're cooked. And, it's the question is not, if or when things are out now. So it's now the question is did it get out in time for us to fix things before everything falls apart and we live in a big giant Somalia?
Well, we'll see. I think we got more hope than they do. I think Europe is finished. Very, very sad, but true. And
cooked.
Yeah, it's completely cooked. Stick a fork in it. I think there's still some time for us to at least take parts of our nation out of the oven. I don't know about the whole thing, but phenomenal call. Really appreciate your input as always, New Groper. I'm going to go ahead and try to take another call on the board, and thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Hey, no problem. Have a good one.
Really quick. You got it, right? It came in the mail?
Yeah. Yeah, I just took it. If it kills me, I'm going to haunt you and Tim. So
all right. He just took the elemental drive.
I took it in the ultimately blue.
Yeah, he just took the. I have both of them. I'm also. We're on the same stack. See, I got the same two things right here. So he just took it. If it kills him, he's going to haunt me and Tim. If it makes him a Uber mention, he's going to compliment the formula, I'm sure, at a future review. But we'll talk about it in a month once you've taken the full stack, and we'll see how you're feeling. We'll see how you're running on it. I mean, like, this is something I take myself. This is something that I advertise to the viewers because it's high quality. And just like, thank you for supporting the show, man, because ultimately we want to get someone else switching for us, and it's hard to do all the control stuff. But thank you, New Groper.
No. Hey, and so this stuff is supposed to help with energy levels and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I need more than anything.
Yes.
So
yeah, it's gonna raise your testosterone, your free testosterone. It's gonna make effort feel better. Zinc is key in neurotransmitter regulation for dopamine and serotonin. A lot of the times, the forms of zinc used, like zinc oxide, aren't actually absorbable. We have zinc picolinate, which is actually very expensive to source. This has got everything you need in it, so you should really experience some benefits in about a week or two. So just let me know how you're feeling on it.
Yeah. And one last question for you on this stuff.
Sure.
I smelled something in it that smelled like a previous InfoWars supplement, but I can't put my finger on what it was. Is there any crossover with some of those ingredients with some of the other, probably would be the older InfoWars stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we used to have magnesium in a lot of the formulas. You may be smelling the magnesium. You could also be smelling the D3. The vitamin D3, which used to be in a lot of old InfoWars formulas. This is kind of a catch-all mineral blends. I'll have to look at the old formulas.
Like I said, I smelled it and I was like, oh, yeah, I remember something like this. And maybe like Super Male Vitality.
Yeah, no, I don't think Super Male is herbal. This is a mineral. This is a mineral blend. I mean, it may be. I'm not sure. It could be the magnesium. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I won't take up any more of your time, man. I'll keep everybody posted, and I'll tell y'all if it works and if it, and what it does for me. But I'm glad I can support the show. And
Dude,
it's always good talking to you, man.
Yeah, you're a real one, New Groper. See you next time we do call-ins. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. We'll see you. Take it easy.
Peace. All right, that was New Groiper, frequent caller in on the show. I just had 2 more calls on and they dropped. The 2 more calls I had dropped. I guess the people couldn't wait 15, 20 minutes. And I understand that. I get that. I'm about to end the show then. If we don't get those callers back on the board, feel free to call back. The number is 512-675-7144. That's 512-675-7144. And I'm going to play Piers Morgan versus Alex Jones. This is a classic. Play a highlight here really quick. And if we don't get a caller before that time or after that time, I'm going to go ahead and end the show. But feel free to call in. I really want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear what you're thinking. This is a show where we don't super chat. We're not charging you to have your opinion on the show. It's free to call in. We got nearly 2,000 people in here. Call back in. I just had 2 calls on the board. It's crazy. They literally just dropped.
Because he's the only guy that had the guns. So we did it to point out that this is globalism. And I'm here to tell you.
Okay, I'm going to find a better version of this. It's not 2 minutes long. I think this is what I actually put on Twitter.
Anyone who's watched this show over the past few weeks knows I've taken a pretty strong stand on guns in America. It's not escaped the notice of supporters of gun rights, and it's led to a petition on the White House official website, no less. It's entitled, and I quote, "Deport British citizen Piers Morgan for attacking Second Amendment." Take a look. More than 104,000 people have signed it so far. And joining me now is one of the people behind the petition, Alex Jones. He's host of the Alex Jones Show. Welcome to you.
Piers, thanks for having me.
Why do you want to deport me?
Well, we did it as a way to bring attention to the fact that we have all of these foreigners and the Russian government, the official Chinese government. Mao said political power goes out of the barrel of a gun. He killed about 80 million people because he's the only guy that had the guns. So we did it to point out that this is globalism, and the mega banks that control the planet and brag that they've taken over in Bloomberg, AP, Reuters, you name it, brag that they're going to get our guns as well. They've taken everybody's guns but the Swiss and the American people. And when they get our guns, they can have their world tyranny while the government buys 1.6 billion bullets, armored vehicles, tanks, helicopters, Predator drones, armed, now in U.S. skies, being used to arrest people in North Dakota. The Second Amendment isn't there for duck hunting. It's there to protect us from tyrannical government and street thugs. Take the women in India. Your piece earlier on CNN I was watching during Anderson Cooper's show didn't tell you that the women of India have signed giant petitions to get firearms because the police can't and won't protect them. The answer is, hey, wait a minute, I have FBI crime statistics that come out a year late, 2011. 20+% crime drop in the last 9 years. Real violent crime, because more guns means less crime. Britain took the guns 15, 16 years ago, tripling of your overall violent crime. True, we have a higher gun violence level, but overall mugging, stabbings, deaths, those men raped that woman in India to death with an iron rod 4 feet long. You can't ban the iron rods. The guns, the iron rods, Piers, didn't do it. The tyrants did it. Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. Doesn't matter how many lemmings you get out there on the street begging for them to have their guns taken. We will not relinquish them. Do you understand? That's why you're going to fail, and the establishment knows no matter how much propaganda, the Republic will rise again when you attempt to take our guns. My family in the Texas Revolution against Santa Anna, my family was at the core on both sides starting that because Santa Anna came to take the guns at Gonzales, Texas. Piers, don't try what your ancestors did before. Why don't you come to America? I'll take you out shooting. You can become an American and join the Republic.
Look how nice that is.
You finished?
Yes, I am finished.
She's not listening.
You will not take my right. You go through background checks to get guns. How about Prozac? You know the number one. Oh, that's the big sponsor, isn't it? Or that whole class of drugs.
Let me ask you a question.
Oh, got to cut that off, don't you? Don't want to talk about the U.S. number one cause of death is suicide now because they give people suicide mass murder pills.
Calm down.
Your answer is give more money to the psychiatrist and psychologist to put more.
That's called rapid fire. That's called machine gun mode. That's my dad. That's my father. That's my mentor, Alex Jones. That's how you handle a slimy Brit.
Crazy people on drugs that make them kill people, Piers.
Let's try and have a debate here.
Yeah.
Answer me this question.
I'm sick of the same old script here, bud.
It's fine, bud. How many gun murders were there in America last year? Do you know?
There were about 11,458, and about 74% of those were gang-related, gangbangers shooting each other. You get 3.5 to 4,000.
That's straight modern.
How many people died from infections in hospitals? 197,000.
Let me just ask you a second.
That's right.
How many gun murders were there in Britain?
How many great white sharks?
No, how many
kill people every year, but they're scared to swim?
Right. How many gun murders were there in Britain?
A very low amount. I already went over those statistics.
Many, do you know?
I was only a few hundred.
No. How many gun murders?
I actually did pull up the statistics. Here, let me pull them out right here. I figured you'd do that.
Gun murders.
Oh, wait.
Last
UK
year.
Violent crime, capital of Europe. London Telegraph. Here, let me give you more.
It's quite a simple question.
Well, that's the oldest.
You're a very loud man.
No, that's the oldest Perry Mason tactic to ask me some little factoid.
It's not a little factoid.
I already said earlier,
We're talking about
England has a
Get
lot lower
mogged, bitch.
gun crime rate because you took all the guns.
Let me try exactly
but you've got hordes of people burning down cities and beating old women's brains out every day.
What a ridiculous
They arrest people.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I think the modern Piers Morgan would now finally have to admit that statement's true. Yeah, your nation's been raped, bud.
In England, if they defend themselves, that's on record. My God, you have got a total police state. Everybody's fleeing that country because you've had to flee here, bud. And I want to say this right here. You think you're a tough guy? Have me back with a boxing ring in here, and I'll wear red, white, and blue, and you can wear your Dolly Roger.
Yeah. Try again. How many gun murders were there?
Oh, you're going to ban your fist now?
In Britain last year.
How many chimpanzees can dance on the head of a pin? I already went over
Classic.
those.
Do you know the answer?
No, I don't.
You said hundreds.
It's very low.
You said
so
hundreds.
cool.
Yes.
It's actually 35.
Well, the point is you can
against 11,000. Do you understand
Hey.
the difference between 11,000?
Yeah, England
and
wants
35?
to ban knives now because tens of thousands are getting stabbed.
But do you understand
Gonna ban
the
knives?
difference?
The knife doesn't kill people.
Do you understand?
The gun doesn't kill people.
Yes.
Listen, do you understand
between
you're not going to
35
pull on America's
11,000?
heartstrings. They know your script, okay? You're not going to get our guns. By the way, you guys always say, we just want to take the semi-autos, okay, and all this other stuff when semi-autos aren't even, rifles aren't even used, but in a fraction of the crimes, you can pull those numbers up, okay? No, hold on.
Let me ask you one question. Which weapon was predominantly used in the Aurora movie theater shooting?
Oh, see, it's literally a decade later. It's the same playbook, handbook he uses on Fuentes. Zoom in, narrow factoid. I'm right on this one little 1,000% zoomed in thing. When you look at the wide case example, Alex is 100% right. It's the same thing he did to Fuentes.
M4 AR-15 variant.
So it was a semi-automatic assault rifle.
Again.
Okay.
But
next question.
statistically,
I got one of those
it's
in my
very,
bedroom
very
right
low.
now.
That was. Do you agree it was the single biggest shooting in the history of America in terms of people hit by a shooter? Do you know that?
No, I believe that there were others. There's been some other shootings with about over 30.
No. This was the single biggest mass shooting.
Well, listen, you're just going.
No,
there have been bombings of Wall Street.
Let me ask you a second.
Are we going to listen? Why can't the pilots have firearms? We trust them to fly the planes.
Alex, you've had a lot to say.
No,
Just
my point
answer
is the Second Amendment is sacrosanct, and you're not getting it.
That's
do you
right.
know which weapon was used in the Oregon shopping mall mass shooting recently?
I understand that people who are mentally ill on all the serotonin reuptake inhibitors who play these shoot 'em up games want to go out and do this. Because there's criminals, I don't lose my rights, Piers. Because there's criminals, I don't lose my rights.
Just answer the question.
Yeah.
Do you know what the weapon used was?
See, he makes the meta level argument. He makes it quickly. He talks over Piers. He doesn't allow Piers to zoom in on that narrow line of questioning. You see, Piers is trying to slow roll here. He's trying to slow him down. He's not. Alex is going thesis over and over and over again. Piers can't handle it because, like New Groper said, he's not that smart.
Listen, let me ask you a question.
No.
I've got the FBI statistics that the so-called semi-autos that you talk about.
Let's take a break. When we come back,
again, you're not going to get our guns.
When we come back, try and answer my question.
Yeah, all you're going to do is sit there and play little factoid questions. Overall crime's gone up over 20%.
All right. Well, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and end the show there. I think there's some sort of glitch going on with the call-in thing. I think people are calling in. I think it's dropping them. I'm not sure. It's this web app that we're using. It's a pretty good service, and I like using it. But I had 3 callers live, and I had more people attempting to call in that I saw getting dropped. That's weird. That sucks. I wanted to roll this forward and just do a kind of marathon live with you guys and hear what y'all had to say about this. But I hope you enjoyed the show today. I'll probably watch the rest of the Fuentes thing with Tim more of the modern topics when he gets back on Thursday, that last like fourth of the interview that I didn't get to cover today. But really appreciate you being here with me live on the Gray Area tonight. Really appreciate New Groiper calling in. I'm sorry to the people that I assume have been calling in, because I saw you on the board and I saw you get dropped. We're going to work on fixing that. I'm going to work on checking the system and making sure that maybe it's out of money or something. I don't know. You got to pay for it. We're paying for minutes here. But yeah, nothing is free. So if you want to support the show, go to goprimalcore.com and really go to Gray Area Talks on YouTube, Rumble, or X. You can find clips of the show. You can find past shows that we've done, including Tim's deep dives, where I have my co-host with me. And Tim does some really phenomenal work going over like systemic causes of some of these issues and some of these problems. We don't agree on everything. We disagree on a lot. We agree on a lot. And we really enjoy coming together to bring you the Gray Area, coming together to bring you a great show. Thank you for being here with me tonight. It's always an honor that you choose to spend your evening or your nighttime viewing habit with me. I appreciate it. I'm honored by it. I respect you. I love the audience. I love the viewers. I love the listeners. And it's a dream come true for me to be able to do this now in my early 20s, being an adult. This is what I always dreamed of as a kid. And it didn't turn out exactly the way I thought it would, but we're here now. I get to do this for you guys. I got a wealth of experience and I got a lot of love for you. And just every time you tune in, you don't have to buy anything. You don't have to comment. You don't have to call in. I just thank you for being here with me tonight. And you are welcome to call in. And I'm sorry if you did today and you got dropped. I don't want you to get discouraged at all. It's a bug in the system. We're going to work to get that fixed. But this has been the Gray Area live number 27. It's crazy. We're getting up there. Soon we'll be at 50 before you know it. And thank you for being here with us tonight. God bless and good luck out there. And be tough.